with the Pledge of Allegiance.
He's here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everybody to the July 16th, 2024 Select Board meeting. We will start with announcements. Do I have announcements?
Announcements are here.
Okay. Oh,
Might have got put
Thank
in
you.
the right spot.
no worries. No worries at all. Next Thursday, July 25th at 7 p.m., Select Board members Craig Doffany and Andy Jefferson, along with our town planner Fiona Coughlin, will hold an Ask Me Anything at the South Grafton Community House. This event will offer residents an opportunity to have their questions answered and to learn more about anything happening in town. It's a very relaxed environment, so please feel free to come. I know that the folks hosting it will welcome more participation. The police department will host their annual National Night Out block party on Tuesday, August 6th. Grafton residents are invited to join forces with thousands of communities nationwide for this crime and drug prevention event. Grafton's Town Takeover at Polar Park is on Wednesday, August the 28th. Tickets purchased for this Woo Sox game will benefit the Friends of the Grafton Elders. And the Regional EV Expo will take place on Sunday, September 29th from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock at 50 Otis Street in Westboro. If you own an electric vehicle, please register to bring it to the event. Share your ownership experience and answer questions from visitors. You can visit grafton-ma.gov for more information about registering as an exhibitor. And I'd encourage people even to consider going out to that event. It's really great. There were a ton of cars last year. And the amount of EVs coming on board over the next couple of years is pretty tremendous. So even if you're not interested in an electric vehicle, it's kind of a fun event to see some cool cars. All right, so we'll move on to our public hearing.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to open the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. Okay, I consider the public hearing open.
Got a legal notice too.
Yeah, you have to read the legal notice, Mark,
Okay.
which might be,
Okay, notice is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that an application has been made by Sargon Hannah from Tap and Table 198 LLC doing business as Reunion Tap and Table to change the manager on the restaurant all alcohol beverage license currently held by Tap and Table 198 LLC DBA Reunion Tap and Table. The business is located at 198 Worcester Street, North Grafton. The premises include a 5,000 square foot freestanding building consisting of one floor and a basement. The first floor has a full service restaurant and a bar area with an approximate seating capacity of 200. Upon this application, the Grafton Select Board will hold a public hearing on today, July 16, 2024, in this conference room A of Grafton Municipal Center, 30 Providence Road. Remote meeting participation is available using using the Zoom information posted on the July 16, 2024 agenda. The meeting will begin at 7 o'clock. The purpose of this hearing is to provide an opportunity for public comment.
thank you. Should we do the motion again, or do we feel okay the fact that we did it upside down? It's okay.
I think
All
you're
right.
good.
Okay, so Sargon, do you want to come give us a little information?
If I may, and then if your name tags are
Thank you.
that's gonna bother me.
Thank you.
Probably Mark.
We're
too.
never quite sure where those are.
Don't call me Shirley.
My name's Sargon Hannah, 208 Brigham Hill Road, North Grafton, Mass. Gary Benequista, whose name was on the liquor license, no longer works for us. And so I wanted to just put it in somebody who's there all the time, who's tip certified. And I'm there more than 40 hours a week. I monitor the bar. I work on the bar as well. So figured might as well just put it under my name. I can manage the license. We've been there for about almost 6 years. We had one incident pre-COVID that it was a bartender who actually no longer works for us. But since then, our team has been tip certified twice over now, tip certification is good for 3 years. So we stay on top of that kind of stuff, and we are diligent with not over-serving and carding everybody who looks under 40. I don't know what else to say, so if you have any other questions, I'm here to answer.
Any questions or discussion from the board or anyone in the public?
Madam Chair.
Yep, Mr. Often.
Hey, Sargon.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Good. It's good to see you in the meeting. I was just wondering if there was any concern, I guess, I'm not sure if that's a word, but about having the owner of the restaurant also sort of the bar, an alcohol manager. It seems like there might be some benefit to having like those be two roles. So I'd just like to hear you.
Yeah,
address that.
yeah, it's not ideal for me, to be quite honest. But because Gary no longer works for us and there was a lapse there, this is kind of something I just want to jump on right now. So at least for the time being, whoever's on that license is there all the time. And then moving forward, I'm hoping that I can have one of my front of the house managers take on that role. I did have somebody else who was tip certified, but just to make sure that Gary's no longer on that license and somebody who's actually there is. That's why I'm doing this right now. So
Got it. That makes perfect sense to me. So we might expect you to come back at some point if you get an employee who's tip certified, who's going to be a long-term sort of manager in that
yeah,
role.
ideally I'm not the one who has to be there monitoring the bar and doing all that.
Got it.
So
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
No, just one comment. I just want to, while Sargon is here, I just want to thank him and his family for taking that plaza over and all the work that you've done on that. And you guys run a great restaurant, and it's a class act up there. And thank you for being one of the businesses in this community. And we appreciate you being there.
thank you, and thank you to all of you who take your time out of your day to do your job, because that is a thankless job. I've been in your seat before, and it's no fun, and you get beat up a lot. And so anytime you can get your flowers, take them. So thank you guys.
Thanks, Sargon.
I just have, Madam Chair,
Mr.
one comment. I certainly echo the sentiments from Mr. Dauphiné, but, and I'm not trying to be funny, but this is going to be funny. You're not changing anything to the burger menu,
Nope.
correct?
Nope.
Because this is the best burgers I've ever had in my life.
Oh, thank you.
And is the Cuban back yet?
Yes, it is.
So we're good. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm
Good
clear.
thing we don't have to do it.
I'm clear.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Any comments from the public, either here in person or via Zoom? Okay, then I would consider
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to approve the change of manager to Sargon Hannah for all alcoholic beverages, for the all alcohol beverage.
Hang on, sorry.
Close the
So,
public hearing
just
first.
make the motion to close the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay, Madam Chair, I moved the board to vote to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. 5-0. Go ahead.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Mr.
I move the board's vote to approve the change of manager to Sargon Hannah for the all alcoholic beverage license held by Reunion Tap and Table at 198 Worcester Street.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any discussion, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations. Thanks, everything.
Thank you. Thank you to the board.
Yeah.
Have a good night, guys.
Thanks. Okay, so we're moving along to appointments by the select board. I just want to thank everybody, first of all. Again, we have a night with a number of different appointments, number of different people applying, which is great. So thank you all for considering these openings. So we'll start with the Council of Aging, or on Aging, sorry. We have 3 applicants and 3 open seats. And I was told that Linda Woods wouldn't be able to be here this evening, but we would just still appreciate your consideration for her. So if Kathy Riley, if you want to come up and just introduce yourself. So everyone who's applying for a position, they want to come up, quick introduction, why you're interested for the position. Doesn't have to be anything too elaborate.
Sure. I'm Kathy Riley. I moved to Grafton in August of last year and have found this community to be amazing. I retired in May and was looking for what to do next. And I always knew that my retirement job, if you will, would be working with the elderly in some capacity. In moving to Grafton, the opportunities are endless working for the elderly. I like to sit with elderly folks whose family needs support, and that's what I'm doing for work. And being on, having attended a couple of the meetings for the council, I realize that I can do a lot of good and support the community in a bigger way. And so I'd be very grateful and pleased if I could be part of that council and support the community in many ways.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions from the board?
Just a comment, Madam
Mr.
Chair. Kathy, thank you very much for stepping up and volunteering. I said this last year, and I have some personal experience with this. There are angels in this world that take care of people and they look out for people that need it. And my parents did that. My dad did that quite a bit. Well into the time, just about the time he got sick, and he's not here anymore. But when he believed in that very much, and it's something that will always resonate with me. And I just wanted to express gratitude publicly for what you said. I read your note, and I'm not surprised the way you positioned what you spoke about here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Mr. Alden?
So good.
Sorry.
Kathy, thanks for bringing up that you're interested in working with the families as well. Elder care and handling those situations is very much a family situation, and sometimes I think the families are a little bit forgotten. So I really appreciate your sensitivity to that. That kind of a broader view of how to manage elder care. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I find every way I can to help. I have a neighbor who has, his wife has Alzheimer's at end stages. So I find ways, if they're giving food, I find a way to get his name in the queue and I bring him the food. And so I'm always watching out for elders in every way that I can. And I'll tell you, this is an amazing community. The websites that we have here, really, we communicate well, we make opportunities available, and I couldn't be happier to be part of Grafton.
You're making my case, about angels here on earth, and you make this place better too by being a part of it.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Thanks, Kathy. All right. And is it Lico? Am I saying it correctly? Come on up, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lico Amano. First of all, I have been a Grafton resident for over 40 years, but I have never really get involved in the community service because I was always working in Boston, and commuting was a nightmare, and it took like 3 hours round trip, so I never really got to know people in Grafton. And COVID sort of forced me to retire. And now I just joined Grafton Senior Center, which I thought that it was closed due to COVID. And I'm finding new friends like Kathy and Aliyah. And I'm so glad that this community has so many things to offer for our elders. And I have attended Foggy meeting and Pride for the gay Pride Day party. That was really, really fun. And what is it called? The fraud against elders. Mm-hmm. That meeting, that was really educational. And because I haven't been really into this community, I just want to give some back to the community and do some good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments from the board or questions?
Yep, Madam Chair.
Mr. Alamo?
I could probably say the same words, same thing. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you. It's very gracious and selfless of you, both of you, in your retirement. I admire you both. What did you do in the airline industry?
Well, first of all, I worked for the Internal Revenue Service.
Oh,
Oh,
whoa.
let me switch these back. Wait a minute.
I retired from that.
Matt, hand me
But
yours.
then I wanted to do something completely different, so I started working for the United Airlines, and I worked at the airport. I did everything that has to do with the airport operations, from the baggage claim to the ticket counter to the gate, boarding people to the plane. And then when United was talking about the merger with Continental, I was afraid that my seniority would go way down, so I switched over to JetBlue, and I did the same thing for JetBlue until COVID hit.
Tough work, all of it. Yeah.
Great,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay,
Anyone
thank you.
else on the board? Any comments? Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. And I'll just quickly, so again, Linda Woods, she still wants to be considered for the position. She writes that she was an active member of the senior center, volunteered in the kitchen and craft room before she had a recent hip surgery, it seems. And if the board doesn't mind, Kathy did work with my mom, so I think it might be appropriate if which is why I teared up when you're talking, but I'll recuse myself for that.
Okay, great. Madam Chair,
Mr. Toffany.
I'll make a motion to appoint Kathy Riley, Liko Amano, and Linda Woods to the Council on Aging.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I will just abstain. But thank you so much.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Just a protocol, what happens next?
Sure. So you'll get a letter from the town administrator's office.
Sorry.
And then you'll bring that with you to the clerk's office and they will swear you in and you're good to go.
Great.
Just call the clerk's office ahead of time to make sure someone's there that can swear you in.
Okay,
All right?
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Carry on with your great work.
Okay, so
Just to leave, right?
Oh, no,
You
yeah,
can-
stay for the whole
you can
meeting.
No,
stay.
no, don't listen to him.
you can stay, you can go, whatever suits you.
Yeah.
And so I'm just checking to see if, so moving on to the Economic Development Commission, Ron Monfort has declined to, he's not going to go for this one. But I just want to make sure that if Ray is online or via Zoom,
I don't see.
maybe he's,
Ray, not online.
okay. And did we hear from him at all, or?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. So, I mean, the good news is we're all well familiar with Ray and his previous service. So I will just call Angela Achu. If you want to come on up and just, again, introduce yourself in a brief bio in terms of why you're interested. Thanks.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Angela Achu. I have been a resident of Grafton since 1975. My parents met in high school here and fell in love, and next thing you know, myself and my 3 younger siblings came along. So we were fortunate. When you look at the description of Grafton, I've had the fortune of growing up on farmland, which I think many of us in Grafton, if we were to look back in the deeds, realize many of us have had that good fortune. My family settled on Fitzpatrick Road, and my paternal grandmother was one of a few women who had her real estate license and was able to secure land from my parents. My paternal and maternal grandfathers built the home that my siblings and I got to reside in, and I learned at a very young age the importance of having a place to grow your roots. And I put my name, with my dad's permission, on his truck. And so if I wasn't going to be an attorney, I was going to become a plumber. The only problem is the name needed to change to Achu and Daughters rather than Achu and Sons. And some of my favorite childhood memories are of that, looking at my family business. On my maternal side of the family, the surname is McClure, and it's a family made of grit and resilience. Many of our local businesses started with my family, barbers, carpenters, tradesmen in the unions is something that was a great pride that happened for them. Some of the businesses that we see on Worcester Street, my Aunt Beverly McClure started Floral Elegance. A lot of things began with a hope and a dream in the minds of young people coming out of high school and they found Grafton to be a place that they could grow not only with their families but with business opportunities. My interest in joining the Economic Development Commission is just that. I think Grafton is a great place for business. I think Grafton belongs to everybody, to all of us who are here, and for those who are looking for a place to be able to grow and thrive. I have spent my career as an attorney, and I have worked for many other municipalities, but not had the opportunity necessarily to work from my own. I have commuted to Boston for a couple of decades, and it began with law school. I went to Suffolk Law, and my second year of law school, the MBTA commuter rail came into being. So I was one of the few who got that opportunity to hop on the train. You just had to get there before 7:15 in the morning because it was very popular. It was the only stop between Worcester and Framingham. So in my early 20s, I started to see the changes. I saw the first traffic light come up in Grafton. I saw our first, I'm going to say, car wash that came in with the neon signs. I remember that being a big deal. And I'm really proud to say that in this town, my family, it was important to everyone that your first job on the books, you had your worker's permit. And that was something that I was able to do at Town Hall. And my first checking account, Charlie Bolak, there's an area that we used to have the Grafton Credit Union, and that grew. My first car loan as well happened in Grafton. And my first home purchase and only home purchase has been here in Grafton. So I'm proud of our town. I'm proud of our community. I'm looking for an opportunity to be able to give back. My professional background focuses a lot on real estate and construction. Many of the projects that I've worked on are in the $100 million plus range. I have certainly worked on smaller projects, but the major municipality that I worked for 13 years was the city of Boston. I was the first woman to hold a position in the construction department and really learned the importance of having a backbone, being a good listener, and focusing in on having some grit and strength, doing your homework before you got into a meeting, and being able to hold your words carefully, not having to be the first one that had the word nor the last one. I litigated on behalf of Boston. I felt very comfortable in the courtroom, and I attribute a lot of that to growing up in a large family, with my grandmother being the best defense attorney who's ever practiced without a license, and my mom, a phenomenal prosecutor as well, practicing without a license. So I learned a lot of democracy at my grandparents' kitchen table, and I value that. So I hope to bring forward that experience. I've worked with both public and private building projects. I've also worked on all the infrastructure that goes into it. So anything to do obviously with water, wastewater, permitting, cell towers, bridges, roadways, parking, all sorts of interesting parking. And definitely the environmental component of it. Over time, I've become more aware of smart efforts, smart building efforts. So as we make a carbon footprint, other ways that we can reduce some of that footprint or a more significant part of it. And the EV stations are really just becoming commonplace to include that. What I am most proud of in my career is building stronger, resilient communities that are welcoming to everyone. And that's what I hope to be able to contribute if I secure your vote tonight on the Economic Development Commission.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
Madam Chair.
Yep, go ahead, Andy.
Yeah. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Impressive career and legal background and deep communal roots, which definitely we appreciate. Your background definitely has several areas that directly and indirectly impact economic development. And you kind of alluded to it towards the end there. So I'm wondering where you think you could, I guess, leverage the biggest impact here locally, and what some of the hurdles you see us facing.
great questions. So where I think we could use like the most impact, I think right away, beginning with our website for the Economic Development Commission, I find it easy to access. There was an opportunity that was offered. It looked like it was a great success for a breakfast, inviting community members and businesses forward. I love the piece that has the drop in on Thursdays to work with businesses. My experience has been it's that hurdle in the beginning. If you're looking to start, if you're a small local business person, where do you begin? What are the resources? How much money do you need? What do you do to secure a loan for your business? So much of that I see as being able to tap into resources that we have within our community here, but also outside of our community. When I say outside, I think of within our Worcester County region, and looking to partner. A lot of work that I've done is based on programming and education. I'm a firm believer that if you create opportunities, you create those through free education and in-person drop-ins, as Grafton is doing. It's maybe being able to expand that. I think there's a lot of people that don't necessarily always have the time during the day, but have hours in the evening. And so my work in some areas have been those evening hours, making myself available and being able to provide, wouldn't necessarily say legal counsel, but sound guidance to help somebody through their process. It can be intimidating, the amount of paperwork and what do all the acronyms mean in the alphabet soup. I have found working with people one-on-one to be able to say, I'm a first generation college graduate. I'm first generation, the first in my family to become an attorney. It's a curious mind. That's what you need. You need a curious mind. You just that willingness to ask questions, sit down, and be able to work together. So I think that's like on the small end of it, like how do you get in? And for the larger scale, part of what I have seen that's a deterrent for those that have so much and so many resources is the naysayers in the process of it's too difficult, it's too hard, you need to know somebody, there's too much red tape in it. And I say, there's a place for everyone at the table. And similarly, if we can come to a meeting of the minds, like tell me what your questions are, we can provide you with information. I think that there's always a way to get information. So I would say it's programming and education that I think, and again, it's a great website. I would love the opportunity to be able to offer to build onto that and be able to partner with some of our local in-town resources and then within the Worcester community.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So this has been an interesting process. There have been some people volunteering. They're in. They had to recuse, leave, depart, step out. So I've done a little bit of due diligence on this, and I certainly know Ray, and he even said something like, "You know me," and I said, "I sure do know you." And he's a very familiar face in the town. A lot of experience, but I will tell you that in the course of doing my due diligence, I did have an opportunity to speak with you, Angela, this past weekend, and it was longer than this. And I was struck by your spirit, how much you love this town, your experience, your intelligence, and to try to tie all that together. You said something to me about the business, that the residents and the business, our business community, should be living harmoniously. Was that something that you said?
Yes.
Yeah, so I started in one place and, thinking about this with individuals, and there were other individuals too. And so, but I came back to, wow, it's a little bit of a new sort of, spirit that we would have here. Maybe a little relatability because you haven't done this before. I haven't done this before. Mm-hmm. But we walk in with some new ideas, with a love and love for the town and gratitude for it. So I would just say that I'm super impressed. I really am. I wasn't expecting it, to be honest with you, for no other reason except that you just don't anticipate something like that. So this is a highly qualified individual with a really incredible approach to the town and a lifelong, citizen, a lifelong resident. That's amazing. Your story about your grandfather. And
thank you.
it's amazing. One question.
Yes.
I work in Boston.
Yes.
And somebody talked about 90 minutes. It's 2 hours. It's 4 hours a day now. Do you have time for this? Do you still work in Boston? Do you have time for
Yes,
this?
I do.
I don't know
I
if you noticed that. I'm saying I work in Boston,
Yes.
complain about my commute all the time, so.
Yes, no.
I'm the
four-
victim here.
4 hours is a good day, right? 4 hours is a good day. 2 in and 2 out would be a good day. You get up a little bit earlier, and my younger siblings, they really thrived here in Grafton in sports and in college. I didn't, but I became a runner, and I did that because I had to get into the city very early in the morning, and so to beat the traffic. So when people say like, how do you find time? I definitely didn't think that I could find time, but I found time to learn how to pace myself and run a mile, and then bring at-risk youth with me. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and on the weekends. And as I was learning how to complete a 5K, these kids were also doing it, and we moved on to do the Boston Half, and our first marathon was the Boston Marathon in 2013. And so you can find time. I've learned ways to find time. It's how you manage your time. As one of the other community members shared, with the changes in COVID, it's changed the way that we work. So I'm not on the road 5 days a week. And so I have the ability to be in Boston 50% of the time and in Grafton the other 50%. So it's opened up an opportunity for me that I didn't otherwise have, which really meant before my volunteer work was really committed in the area where I worked. And I also, for my job for Boston, I had to be a resident. I had to live in Boston. So just want to make that clear as well. I've had the opportunity to know what it's like to come in as a newcomer and find your place and find a heart where you are, and that's important to me. I look at Grafton, I know what that feeling is like to come in as a newcomer somewhere where you work, and there's certain requirements, residency requirements. Obviously may not be the case here for folks, but that feeling of newness and coming in, and how do you find your place? And so that's something that'll never leave me, because I got those opportunities, and it really shaped me as a person, it shaped me as a professional.
Yep.
So yes,
One-
I got the
one
time.
comment.
Sure.
Angela, thank you for being here.
Thank
It's-
you.
It's nice to meet you.
Same.
And if you're middle-aged and grew up in Grafton, you probably graduated with McClure.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin was my grade, so that tells you
Yes.
kind of how old I am, right?
Yes, my cousin.
Yeah, great family, and Nelson Park.
Nelson Park, yes.
Right,
Yes.
So EDC, so I'm the selectman's rep on EDC, just appointed. I was on it years ago when I was on the board before. And it's a challenging committee. There's a lot of pieces to it. There's a lot of potential, but it's hard to figure out how to maximize that potential. And I think with your background, with your legal skills and your real estate, and all the other things that you bring, I think we got a chance. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to serve together. But I think we got a chance to do some good things. There's a lot of potential with existing commercial properties here that aren't being maximized or are vacant, and have been for a while. And there's opportunities up at Tufts and
Yes.
some other. But you mentioned Worcester. I think it's important to bring, try and get Worcester on board with promoting something other than Worcester. Through the Chamber of Commerce, both with Blackstone and with the Worcester Chamber, and get them to think about Grafton when there's some potential, businesses that are looking for new homes to provide tax revenue for the town and to stimulate and support the businesses that are already here. Supporting the businesses that are already here is another, I think, thing that we need to do with the EDC and recognize them and help them through the building inspectors process, which can be difficult.
Agreed.
So there's a lot of pieces to this, but I think there's a lot of potential in bringing new revenue to the community. I think is important. We all realize how important that is with budget
Agreed.
challenges, and so I really appreciate you stepping forward, and
Thank you.
hopefully we'll get a chance to tackle some
Thank
of this
you.
stuff together.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair, make a motion to appoint Angela Achu to the Economic Development Commission.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair?
Go ahead. I just was looking at, I don't see Ray here still, but go ahead.
Yeah, just, I would be remiss if I didn't, bring up Ray and his, considerable talents and, skills that he could bring to the EDC and has. Ray's a boots on the ground kind of guy. He talks to people. He tries to make opportunities happen. He's very much above everything, I think, a revenue chaser. That was one of the things that I found that really defined him as a board member. And obviously, he's a long-term Grafton resident, and he's a guy who's very much service-oriented and always has been. Having said that, I would be very comfortable with either candidate. I think we have both candidates have excellent skill sets, and I think Grafton's really lucky to have such talented people stepping up for opportunities like this. So I just wanted to sort of, regardless of how it goes, say thanks for your interest, Ray. And I guess the other thing is if you find yourself not able to put time in as it works out, I guess what I would ask, and this would be for anybody on a board or committee, consider resigning and creating an opportunity for somebody else who may be interested in volunteering.
Appreciate that. Yep. No, good words.
Yep, Madam Chair.
Anything else? Yep.
Yeah, I just,
You're
I
almost at your time.
apologize. I'm very verbose tonight. Don't worry, I'll crash soon. Agree with Mr. Often on Ray, and agree on people stepping forward. And Matt, it's one of the reasons it's made it such a hard decision for me. 'Cause I'm a big fan of Ray's. He was really good to me, as everyone knows, and I do think he's a huge, service oriented guy for Grafton. But I just found, I think we found a little bit of a new kind of diamond in the rough. And I think that people that voted for me are interested in something like that you have to offer, Angela. So, but it was a tough decision. It was definitely a tough call, no question.
Okay. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, kind of echoing everybody else. I came into this, sort of feeling like Ray would be difficult to unseat. We've seen a resurgence in the efforts of the EDC in his tenure, and he is always actively hustling and trying to engage contractors and businesses and convince them Grafton is the right place for them to set up shop. But it was an impressive discussion, and I think I'd like to think anyways that even Ray would support somebody with that level of enthusiasm for the role, that is also looking to kind of get in there and do some serious direction. So.
Yep, agreed. I definitely want to thank Ray. Watching for here, but like we said, we all know who he is and the amount of time that and effort he's put into this community. So we certainly all appreciate that. Thankful to have Angela to be getting involved and stepping up. So without any further discussion, the motion on the floor is to accept Angela Achu to the position of the one seat on the Economic Development Commission. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, so the motion carries 5-0.
Just one thing, it doesn't, and this goes for all committees, anybody can go to a meeting. You don't have to be on the commission or in any committee to contribute to that committee. We're all welcome to go. We might not get to vote, but we can certainly offer our input if it's a passion of Ray's or anybody else's, and that goes for, like I said, 100 committees in town. People can go and be a voice, bring ideas and perspectives, and at any time they want.
Yep, good point. Okay, great. Congratulations, Angela. So as Evan said, you'll hear from them and you'll go and get sworn in, etc. Thanks. And so we're moving on to the Trails Committee. Again, we have a contested seat here. There's one seat that's open. I believe that Derek Mulligan, can you just remind me, Evan, I can't find that. Did he decide he just can't be here tonight?
I think
maybe?
he just couldn't be here.
Okay, so he just can't be here tonight, sorry. So looks like we have Dan and Lauren via Zoom. We did have Dan, yep. So actually, yep. So Dan, do you want to go ahead and start? And just a little bit
sure
about
thing.
you and why you're
So
interested
thank you,
in
everybody.
Trails. Yep.
Pleasure to meet you all and talk to you about the committee. Dan Fiore, been a Grafton resident for 22 years. Raised our 3 kids through the Grafton schools, and have been using the trails all 4 seasons, all 22 years. either myself or with the family and the kids, and I've always kind of fancied myself as a bit of a steward for the trails, and and I'll do off maintenance. I mean, I'm not down there cutting off trees and things like that, but making sure it's safe if if limbs did fall or things like that, or trimming back stuff just to make sure that things are passing. And so, being out in the trails is, if someone told me I could do one thing for the rest of my life, that would be it. It would be hiking. And so it's just a passion of mine, and it's just been such a great town that feel as though I would welcome the opportunity to even be more active in the stewardship, the maintenance, and the ongoing expansion and promotion of the trail systems that we have here in town.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dan. Any questions from the board? Okay, and hearing none, we'll move on to Lauren Eppinger.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I have been a Grafton resident my whole life, which is admittedly shorter than some of you have even just lived here. I just graduated college with I just graduated college with a degree in environmental engineering, and I'm pursuing a master's degree right now online. So I've moved back to Grafton. I lived in Vermont for 3 years during high school. I went to a boarding school, which is where I really developed my love for the outdoors and hiking and backpacking. I was a 4-H leader there, teaching tree identification, native plants in Vermont. And I also got to rework some of the trail maps of my high school through that, because we're situated on 500 acres of mostly unmapped trails, which is bad for the environment and so unsafe for people just going loose into the woods, which is kind of why I'm so interested in this position. Is I just have a deep love of hiking and being outdoors, and think that the trails in Grafton are incredible, but there's definitely some work that can be done to improve them, always to expand them. And I would just love the opportunity to help with that work.
Great, thank you, Lauren. Any questions from the board? Okay, and I'll just,
No, go ahead.
Derek, he just submitted that he would be available to attend the committee meeting the third Thursday of every month, and additionally, his time that he's able to support trail work. So we have 3 applicants for the 1 seat, and again, with this is a brand new, relatively new committee, maybe just a year old, if that. So it must be a year old, I suppose. It's great to see folks enthusiastic about this. It was a committee that I was involved in via Open Space and Rec. So I'm super excited to see the level of enthusiasm from you guys for the Trails Committee, and I would encourage folks to just stay tuned, because I think this is a staggered approach on this committee. So no doubt there'll be there's other openings that will come up next year and the year after. So I guess, which is like most committees, but in any case, and then additionally, I think it's a committee that's trying to, find their way. So either way, as Craig pointed out, please attend the meetings and get involved with it. But that's my 2 cents.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
Just before we take a motion.
Mhm.
I do know Derek Mulligan
Okay.
personally, so I just wanted to speak a little bit on his behalf.
Sure.
Derek is a very friendly, outgoing guy. He's very much a service-oriented guy, and I know that from personal experience. He's high integrity. I think I don't, though, because Derek and I usually only talk about auto racing. That's he's got a beautiful Porsche that he races a lot. And I'm always watching videos, and so that's kind of our thing that we talk about. So I don't
Where
actually
does he
know.
do that? He doesn't do that in Grafton.
On
does
the
he?
trails?
Yeah,
On the trails? This is
right.
crazy.
I know. He's
Newbury Street.
yeah. So so I don't know how much he's out there on the trails, and what his passion is for outdoor activities and that sort of stuff. But he's a very good guy, and I'm sure that he would be at the meetings and put the time in if he were given the opportunity. So.
Yep.
Okay.
This is great. Craig?
So just a question. So currently, the 3 people that have applied, none of them are on the committee.
Correct.
Okay, I thought somebody had said Derek was currently a member. Okay, so they're all new people stepping forward for the 1 seat. And
Yeah.
what is the makeup of the Trails Committee? Like, how many members are on the committee?
I think there's 5. What were you gonna say, 7?
I was gonna say seven.
Okay.
That could be a problem. I'll look it up right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
5 or 7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure. You can look
All
it
right,
up.
because I,
Um,
you know,
I'm happy to be wrong.
And I
Andy.
think because it was a brand new committee, it is quite
Was
staggered
staggered.
initially. Yeah.
I remember that.
I'm just thinking if, you know, if we can, if the board wishes to, and we can expand the committee, you don't want too many, but if we have great applicants here, and we always hate to turn people away, it's 5. So, obviously, we gotta keep it an odd number, but if we could expand the committee, and make it 7, or 9, just so that we could get more people involved in it. It's a great committee, and we certainly, why not have more people if they want to serve and that's their passion?
Would that be something that we should go to that committee with, or that's something that we could just decide?
It's your charge.
Okay.
I'll make,
I'm
There's a
feeling
plot
real
twist.
authoritarian tonight.
so, I'll make a motion to expand the committee to 9, unless somebody thinks that's too many. I know it's a
9.
big jump, but
No, 7.
9 seems,
We're at 5.
Mhm.
You're
Go
saying
to
9?
7.
well, we have 3 applicants.
Right, but
how
this-
many are on the committee
One
now?
seat available, so we
So-
only need 2 additional seats. That would be up to
Well,
7.
So there's 4 people on there right now. So if we
Oh,
accepted all 3,
All
then
right,
we
there's
get to
4
7.
on there now.
Yeah.
There's not 5.
The only one that did.
I would be concerned with quorum, skipping up with 4 additional seats.
Right.
So I,
Yeah, so go 7. So my motion is
I'm
to
on
go
board
to
with 7.
to go to 7.
Should that be on an agenda though, first, before changing a charge?
yes, reasonably yes. So what I would recommend is that
Accept
you
somebody and then-
appoint one person tonight and then
Yep. Great.
update the charge at your next meeting and appoint the other 2. And then easy
Okay.
peasy, you're done.
All right. Sounds good. So I will take a motion.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Upton?
I move we appoint Dan Fiore to the Trails Committee.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
So, yes, Madam Chair. So what we're saying is, we're appointing Dan, if we all agree, we would appoint Dan tonight, update the charge to add an additional 2 seats, and then come back and add Lauren and Derek, who have asked to participate. Oh, just one of them.
Well,
No, both.
Both.
yes, but if we change the makeup of the group, don't we have to re-advertise the position, which could then bring in more than just 2 applicants?
I don't.
That's splitting hairs.
I'm just
real
saying.
complicated. I don't.
It wouldn't necessarily. I don't think we can necessarily say that those 2 people
So,
would absolutely be appointed at the next
I
meeting.
believe we advertise it just that there's vacancies.
Openings?
Right. So if you expand the committee to allow more people to participate, you could still do this and we could still re-advertise it. And if you got even more, then you could up it to 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think it changes what this process. So you could appoint Dan or Lauren or Derek tonight. Come to the next meeting, expand the committee, put the other 2 folks on. We could still advertise it again. And if you got more interest, then you could bump it to 9 or.
I just don't. I feel great about Dan and Lauren, and I don't want to lose the opportunity with Lauren for sure.
Yeah. No, they're all great. That's why it's just, and I think that committee works well at 7 too, because there's always works on trails. If, like Dan said, going out there and with his chainsaw and cleaning up, you know.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Madam Chair?
Yep, Mr.
Just quickly, I'm comfortable with Lauren as well.
Yeah.
I just, I'm a frequent user of the trails in Grafton, and I've seen Dan out. Dan, you might not recognize me, may or may not. I recognize you from Facebook because I'm good friends with your wife.
Yep.
I see Dan out there all the time. And I think it would be a huge benefit to have somebody who's just out on the trails all the time, who sees, and it's not just a single place that I've seen him, it's kind of all over the place. So I just think there's a lot of benefit to having somebody who we know uses the trails all the time, and because he's used them so consistently for such a long time, knows all of the issues across the trail system and all that kind of stuff. So that's the main reason that I'm I made my motion for Dan.
Yeah. I think they're both great.
Right.
Yeah.
So the motion on the table though is to appoint Dan to to this term, and then we can discuss, coming back and talking about reopening this or just appointing the other two at a different meeting. So that would be what we're voting on now, if everyone.
Yep.
Feels that's where we are. Okay, so all in favor of Dan for the Trails Committee?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll be a no, doesn't really matter, but, so it's 4-1, and then what we will do is bring this back next time after thinking about it a little bit more, and hopefully look at, appointing Lauren and Derek if we're able to increase the charge to 7 immediately, and if not, we will repost this, and hopefully you guys will come back either way.
Yeah, I'll have Amber reach out to both Lauren and Derek and just keep that contact alive with what the next meeting is gonna be, and we'll just put the charge on before the appointment process.
Okay,
Yeah, I was gonna say, so the next meeting, which will be
in a
Wednesday.
few weeks, we're gonna talk about that after.
Okay, all right. So we'll have that,
Yep, but
the
I'll
charge change on there, and then
Yeah.
after that, we'll have them.
Sure.
And you can, Lauren, you can come in or not come in, and we'll see if there's other applicants, but you're welcome to join us again. But hopefully we'll get you on there, 'cause
Yeah.
we need young blood on there, as you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier in your statement, so.
Yeah, because I'm not that.
How'd you think?
Thank you very much.
Yep,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Thanks, Lauren. Okay, moving on to the Veterans Advisory Committee, which will be easier given that there's 9 seats open and we just have one applicant, Lucas Remillard. And is Lucas here? And is that a reappointment or?
No, I don't believe it's a
Okay,
He had been on, then he missed the
And then-
deadline to
right.
reapply, so
that's okay.
So it's a quasi reappointment.
yes.
Yeah, I recognize the name certainly. Okay, so, I'll take a motion.
Yep, Madam Chair, I move the board vote to reappoint Lucas Remillard to the Veterans Advisory Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And moving on then to election workers, we have Robert Fields, Margaret Cass, Rebecca Bernard, and Stanley Corbet. We have many, I think, openings in this, so I could take a motion to appoint these folks if people feel comfortable with that.
I do, Madam Chair.
Mr. Alamo,
I move the board vote to appoint Robert Fields, Margaret Cass, Rebecca Bernard, and Stanley Corbett as election workers.
Second.
motion made and seconded. Any discussion? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No one. So it's 5-0. And welcome to all welcome back to Lucas Remillard, and welcome to all those election workers. And now moving on to appointments by the fire chief, auxiliary firefighter, Anthony Val and Brandon Arredondo. I will take a motion to affirm their appointments.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to affirm the appointments of Adam Valley as auxiliary firefighter at Station 3 and Brandon Arredondo as auxiliary firefighter at Station 2.
Second.
A motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Just one thing, Madam
Craig.
Chair. Just a shout out to our fire chief, Eric Matthews, and his team for continuing to recruit, new on-call firefighters, auxiliary firefighters. They've, we were down probably 20 or 25 because of retirements and other things. And it's great that we're building that back up, because most communities are really struggling with that. So it's great.
He's doing a great
and,
job.
and he's been a big part of that.
They are thriving.
Yeah,
Great to see.
super. Biggest on-call department in the state, I believe.
Great. Thank you, Craig. And thanks to the chief. Sorry, did we vote on that? Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, moving along. New business. We have a license to sell at the Farmer's Market by Ragged Hill Cider Company. And do we have someone here from Ragged Hill? Yep. Hi, Ann.
Hi, I'm Ann Garwood Hamp, and also my father, Steve Garwood, are both the owners and operators of Ragged Hill Cider Company.
Great. And you're looking to start having a presence at the Farmer's Market on Wednesdays?
We are, yes. We've been doing the Sturbridge Farmers Market since its inception about 5 years ago. We've done Northampton Farmers Market. We've done Shrewsbury, and as well as having our own tasting room, tap room open, which unfortunately closed down around COVID, but so we're still keeping our presence alive in farmers markets and really enjoy doing that. And I've heard wonderful things about the Grafton Farmers Market and would love to be a part of your community.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board?
Just one. Love that name, Ragged Hill. Ragged Hill. I had a very dear friend that lived up on Ragged Hill Road in West Brookfield years ago. Fortunately, he passed away. But when I saw the Ragged Hill Road name, just made me think of him in West Brookfield. If you've ever been there, it's a beautiful town. So, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a lifelong resident of Ragged Hill. My father moved there when he was 7 years old. We've had family there for 5 generations, so it's a beautiful place, and we love being here. And Ragged Hill itself is just a gorgeous area.
You probably remember a gentleman by the name of Jeff Toppin.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's older than you.
You're dating yourself.
Here we go again. That whole
Okay,
age
so,
thing.
any further discussion? Yep, Andy?
Similarly, I was going to give a shout out. Like to see the WB on an application out here. My wife actually grew up on George Allen Road when she was younger, so welcome aboard.
I live on George Allen Road.
I know,
wow.
your application.
That's great. Any further discussion? If not, I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to approve a license for Ragged Hill Cider Company to sell at the Grafton Farmers Market in 2024.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries 5-0. Great, welcome aboard.
Thank you so
Look forward to
much.
seeing
We
you.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Small world. Okay, so moving along to a one-day beer and wine license for Apple Tree Arts at 1 Grafton Common. And do we have someone here for that? Because there weren't any details unless they came through in our application. So Kathleen, is she out there, William?
She is not on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see her.
Doesn't say what the event is.
Yeah.
So it's July 27th at Apple Tree, the Great Hall. I don't know if there's even hours on here that I noticed.
No, it doesn't look like it's a complete application.
So we might have to pass over that, and we don't have another meeting in the meantime. But
Yeah, you can pass over it on the agenda now, and I can just reach out to Amber just to make sure we didn't miss something, but
sounds good.
I believe that's all we had.
Okay, thank
And
you.
we can circle back if I get
Yep.
update.
Sorry, I just looked on their website quick. It looks like they have a concert on the 27th. Got tickets now to see if they outline times. Starts at 8 p.m. That's all I got. Kate Prasher in concert. July 27th.
I don't know how the board feels about.
I will work on it, and then we can.
Yeah, okay,
we'll
maybe it'll
circle
come
back
through.
in.
Yep. Okay, so continuing with new business, we'd like to welcome our new library director, Tom O'Connell. And is Tom here?
I don't think Tom is. He was on Zoom, but is gone now. So I don't know if he ran into some kind of technical difficulty or something, but
Yep.
we can keep an eye out. If he pops back on, we'll let you know. And if not,
So all the questions
we can,
come over
we
here.
can bring
Scare
him.
him away.
Well, Mark's done for the night.
Right.
So,
I'm just, he's tapping me
we're
out. I'm not, he's tapping me
smooth
out.
sailing
So
from
we'll
here
just
on.
make a note on
this thing
PNC. We might come back to those, but he did include some information here in our packet, obviously. And if we don't get to meet him today, hopefully we'll do it at our next meeting.
William and I
that's-
have been working with Tom
that's
quite a
fine.
bit.
Yep.
Sorry to
Yep.
I didn't mean to cut you off. But we found him to be a really great guy. He's very enthusiastic and pragmatic and down to earth. So we've enjoyed. Well, we're both also not directing the library, so that's been great. But no, having Tom here has been wonderful.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so if not tonight, Tom, if you're out there somewhere, no worries. We can get you on another meeting. Just wanted to put our eyes on you. No big deal. Okay, so we'll move on to the recommendations from the Traffic Safety Committee, which Chief Crapo is going to probably come up and go through those with us. Good evening.
Okay, you should all have my memo that was sent previously. Traffic Safety Committee met on May 22nd to discuss several citizens petitions. Just to let you know, when we get petitions, that have to do with anything traffic related. Naturally, I do a little bit of research, checking the roads, complaints, the any speed violations or accident reports for a certain intersection or whatever. We also invite the petitioners to come to the meeting. They're sent a notice, and so that they can basically tell us what's going on and what they're looking for in person. So, first request was actually from the town, from town planner Fiona Coughlin. This was regarding the work that's being done up at High Street, School Street. So her recommendation, per our suggestions, was to install a one-way sign along High Street at School Street, provide designated spaces for Grafton Fire Department staff, up to 4, facing North Main Street along Overlook Street. Guess there's a problem when they have call-outs and whatnot. People park there quite often, so that would have to be posted. Install stop signs at the corner of High and Overlook Streets, School and Overlook Streets, School and Perry Street, and High and Perry Street. Install no overnight parking signs at the beginning of Overlook Street per the recently completed Whitney Park summary report. So this was voted on and motion was made, second approved. There was discussion from the town engineer. He was looking to have both High and School Streets made a one-way, which most of the board disagreed with, because there wouldn't be any flow up there, so there would be issues. So based on that, as I mentioned, motion was made, seconded, approved, and we're presenting this to the board. Did you want to go through all of them first? You want to go through each one separately for your approval?
I think you can go through all of them if that's okay with the board, and then we can always circle back if we feel like we have questions on some.
Okay. Received a request from Norman Chaluka to place stop sign at Meadowbrook Road where it intersects with Miriam Road. There was discussion that included incidents of excessive speeds, increased traffic, and vehicles accidentally leaving the road, especially during the winter months. All right, there were no reported accidents at this location, which is one of the warrants under the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. They have set warrants when a stop sign or a traffic signal device should be put in place. So this did not meet the warrant. However, a motion was made to install a stop sign at the end of Meadowbrook where it intersects with Miriam Road to mitigate dangerous intersection, and member Canoia abstain because he lives nearby. Request from Kel Jackson of Houston Wire for a crosswalk in front of 134 Ferry Street. Basically, a crosswalk at that location would have been a mid-block crosswalk, which is normally against once again, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices and state code. There's no handicap access, no sidewalks there. He was looking basically to put a crosswalk from his parking lot to the front parking lot of the business. So after discussion, it was decided that by your leave, that DPW could install lighted caution signs for signalizing that pedestrians would be crossing there. Motion was made to install 2 cautionary signs with appropriate wording to indicate pedestrians in the road, but not a crosswalk, to be located at the discretion of DPW. And finally, there was a request that went out to all departments, I believe, which I brought forth to the Traffic Safety Committee. The timing was good. So regarding comments, proposed 268 rental units at 14 Snow Road. After reviewing the plans and discussion about increased traffic and pedestrian safety, motion was made the following recommendations, and this was sent to the zoning board, I believe. Install sidewalk from Worcester Street, and we would ask that the developer do this from Worcester Street to Christmas Tree Lane, coordinated with existing sidewalks on Snow Road. Install a traffic signal at the intersection of Worcester Street and Snow Road, subject to a traffic study. Once again, we feel that the developer should be bearing the cost on this, but it is a state road, so the select board would have to submit something to State Highway. And developer to place 2 pole-mounted radar speed control signs on Snow Road approaching the development, facing in both directions, at locations to be determined by myself or DPW. And that's it.
Great. Any questions or comments from the board? Andy?
So, thanks, Chief. On the second request with the stop sign, it just says that the motion was made. Did you guys not vote?
No, it was voted on. It was made, seconded, and approved.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yep, Craig?
Chief, on the 268 units being proposed on Snow Road, what was the discussion on the traffic committee as far as, you know, that, the grade on that hill at the bottom of Snow Road and what type of a signal would go in? Cause I would assume trying to take a left out of there is gonna be extremely difficult. Is it gonna have to be a left-hand turn signal, or is that something?
Well, if and when they put the signal in, they would have to do an engineering study basically to look at that, and that was part of the recommendation. The state would have to do all that because that is a state road basically. The grade itself, I don't know what exactly they could do there.
Yeah.
You know, with putting in a sidewalk, with the connection, I forget if there's maybe a little bit of brush there that have to be cleared naturally, but the state would have to do an engineering and traffic study for that location if they were to put lights in there.
Yeah, cause you have the CVS entrance is very,
Right,
very
that,
close.
yeah, yes.
That's a concern. And did you guys discuss the intersection of Snow Road and East Street, or East Street and Waterville Street and 140, people leaving that way?
No, that'll be, we'll address that more as time progresses, but this was just comments to the zoning board,
Right.
preliminary.
Right. I mean, I look at Snow Road and the development off of Snow Road, there's probably 50 houses total, and we're putting 280 or 268, sorry,
Correct.
on one site, and that's gonna change that road and that intersection,
Oh,
several
absolutely.
intersections, significantly, so.
Absolutely. The speed, the radar units that we're talking about, the pole mounted, you see them across, around town. We've started putting those up a few years ago, and they do help, from what I understand. But that's just a quick measure. Once again, there'll have to be another traffic study, and East Street will probably have to be addressed. Although I think the only thing you could do there is, there is a stop sign there, but I don't know what other engineering, traffic engineering they could do over there.
Does the committee have a budget? Your committee?
Do we have a budget?
Yeah.
No. No, we're advisory, and we just meet and then bring you our recommendations.
So if we wanted to do a traffic study on that, if that project moves forward, we could fund it out of our own professional services.
For East Street,
For Worcester Street.
for Worcester Street, well, that there I think would be probably the
Here.
state.
Yeah, it'd probably be the state there. We wouldn't do a traffic studies. But we'd also probably fund any traffic, or with any development, comes through the peer review process.
Yeah.
So we use our engineer and then we don't pay for it, so. But I think you're right, Chief, as far as Worcester Street goes.
Yeah. Eventually, although it's pretty much built out, but Wheeler Road, I do get complaints quite a bit about Wheeler Road and the intersection there. Of course, people have a tendency, they creep out, and knock on wood, we haven't had a ton of accidents there, but with any more housing that goes up there, there could be issues there, which I don't see a light at Snow and Worcester, and then a light at Wheeler and Worcester.
And the other one right after that goes in is Stop and Shop too.
Yeah, there is a light there already. Yeah.
Just,
Yep.
I'm interested in the stop sign on Meadowbrook. It seems like a kind of a weird place for it. That doesn't seem like would be a place for that.
The issue was, and as I said, we go by the warrants listed in the manual on uniform traffic control devices. It doesn't warrant it, but there are certain things, and I looked at accidents farther down. There's been quite a few cars that have run off the road there, especially during the winter time, and the feeling was that this would probably, if anything else, which you're not supposed to use this for, is slow down the vehicles to keep the traffic through. And we do get complaints farther down But,
I've driven down there, it's warranted.
yeah,
The Axtell corner, I'm gonna bring that up. That intersection to me is bizarre now. I just don't, how many stop signs are there at that intersection now?
There's one.
North and Wesson.
yeah, there's one.
Chief and I have talked about this a few times.
It's terrible.
It's like, it's bad. I mean, I would ask you guys to look at that.
We did. And I think they were supposed to put, I thought DPW was supposed to put some lines there to kind of keep people in the lane. But we had a stop sign and the yield sign, which makes no sense
Well,
whatsoever.
there's no stop sign. The only stop sign is heading from North Street towards
Yeah,
Western.
towards west.
So if you're coming from Western towards North, and then, or if you're coming from Institute, you know, that's like, you're at, there's no stop sign there. So both of those one's coming this way, one's coming this way, they're gonna, and there's no reason for them to stop.
Well,
Well,
if you're taking a left turn, you always have to stop.
Yeah, and whenever you take a left turn, you have to
Left
yield
turn
to
on.
approaching traffic. That's,
You're technically taking a left off of
Yeah.
Wesson onto North at that point,
Yeah.
so the people coming up the hill on Wesson have the right of way because they're staying on Wesson Street.
I
Exactly.
understand that, but there's two corners there, and that's kind of blind coming up Institute and blind coming around
blind
West,
on
and I just
Institute,
think it's
Doing-
gonna be some
yeah.
accidents.
and there haven't been any accidents
Yeah.
though. I did the research, I think I went back about six years, and there haven't been any accidents there. It's, when you come in any intersection, you should be slowing down, you know, keeping an eye out. There is enough space to watch, and if you are crossing though, say coming down Wesson, making that left turn, you have to yield the right of way to oncoming traffic that's going through. So
It just seems like that triangle that there should be two stop signs instead of one.
The chief and I had a similar conversation around this time last year because that was one of the items that you guys had discussed. We have talked since as well. We have two dangerous intersection signs, one at the top of the hill, one at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, those will put them.
And I don't think the DPW's had a chance to go out and address the line painting situation yet. But that was something that we had discussed as well, giving some sort of better indicator in the line placement that Wesson, goes down the hill, and if you don't just zip through that left turn, you don't have the right of way. So
There were dangerous intersection signs put there.
Yeah.
Kind of warn people that.
People aren't gonna know that they don't have the right of way, though. I don't know. I don't feel like they're gonna know that.
Yeah, I
It's not cut and dry. It's not like like one of these. It's
If
this
well,
way.
yeah, if you're, it's basic driving knowledge. If you turn in somebody's lane,
saying I'm not
you don't have no. Well, but you can't turn left and cut in
what
front
I'm
of
hearing.
somebody because the person that's going straight has the right of way. That's
It's an awkward intersection.
Yeah, like I said, we had a yield sign there plus a stop sign, which I think is a little confusing too. So are you yielding to the person at the stop sign? It's just like having two red lights going both ways. It's so. And
I think part of it is just the way it was previously.
Yeah,
You
with the
fielded
island.
differently, so when you're coming in up onto North, it was just a different feeling.
Yeah, but
So just-
as I mentioned, we haven't had any accidents there. So
So as somebody who drives that intersection almost daily, sometimes multiple times daily, yeah, it's a little weird. But it's way better than it used to be. So it feels a lot safer navigating that intersection than it did, but it is definitely unclear from some directions.
it's not quite a T intersection, which was the
That's the
hope
problem.
Yeah.
for it. Because of the grade, the change in the grade going up and coming down, and
Right.
Yeah.
but that's I don't know what else they want to do with that now. I
Yeah.
talked to Brian, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Madam Chair?
Mr. Alamo?
Well, we might get to those things in the future. Tonight, I move the board vote to accept the recommendations from the Traffic Safety Committee as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. And I just wanted to add, so just confirming that on number 4, so those requests that went to ZBA as part of their packet?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay,
under
thank you,
comments.
just confirming. Okay, so we have a motion second. That was the only, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
And you can stay right where you are, because I think we're moving on to an update from you.
All right, National Night Out is Tuesday, August 6th. You're all familiar with it, and I want to invite you all, take a break from your meeting and come on down. There you go. We're looking for people to get in the dunk house, so.
That's the
you
new
get-
member, always
if
the
you-
new member,
yeah,
right?
If
I
you,
did it. I did it last year.
if you
It was
volunteer,
a
you'll
lot
get a
of fun.
t-shirt. How's
It
that?
was fun.
Yeah, you'll get a t-shirt, so I would suggest you get in like one of the first 2 or 3, because after that it's,
Oh, yeah,
But-
I spit in that a lot.
huh?
I spit in that a lot last year.
TMI. Anyways, but no, it's pretty much the same like we did in the past. This is our, I think, 16th or 17th one. 2 we didn't do because of COVID, and 1 because of the high school being built. The parking lot was all fenced off, so we had no place for the cars to park, and we do get quite a few cars. But there'll be we'll have some amusements. Hopefully, we'll have the clown dunk or whatever, face painting.
The clown.
Clown dunk. Not that anybody that's in there is a clown.
That's what
but
Evan gets it.
Yeah, I was gonna say what
Calling Evan
poor
now?
choice of words, but then maybe not. Anyways, we'll have face painting. We'll have roving magician. I'm trying to get one of the props from a well-known movie called Back to the Future. We've had it here before, so keep my fingers crossed on that. Something to see. Besides that, we'll have other town officials, the Board of Health, besides police, some businesses that support us will be there, a couple of the banks, actually 3 now, that support us will be there. So plenty to do, all kinds of police equipment, fire department equipment, and we'll have bicycle helmets for the kids while they last. Pizza, hot dogs, table talk pies. I think one of the Girl Scouts, whatever, has popcorn and ice cream and whatnot. So everything is free. Unlike some other departments that are doing it now, they have, you got to buy what you get. Everything here is free. So, and fortunately, it's part of donations that we get from the businesses. So, should be a good time. It runs from 5 to 8 on Tuesday, August 6th, and we hope to see everybody there.
Great, thank you. Thanks.
And finally, I just want to make it known that I will be retiring in August. August 4th, more than likely. It'll be 20 years, and next month, the 24th, Greg was on the board. So if you want to blame now, and you're stuck with me. And I don't make this decision lightly, but I could do a few more years. But my biggest thing is I want to let the officers get some promotions, move up. They've been very patient. It was not my plan to stay here this long, but I had a great time.
Yeah.
The officers are great. My staff, dispatchers, my assistant, they're all great. And the board has been excellent. I've been through several boards and several town administrators. And the one thing that, you always think about small towns, interference, and I can say I've never, ever, ever had anybody come to me to do this, to do that. That I didn't, nothing, never, and in some cities where I come from way back when, there's always something, larger cities, Massachusetts, wherever, and I've never had that situation happen. So it's been great. I've never looked elsewhere. There've been other openings, more money, more this, more that, but as soon as we moved here, I was not interested going anywhere else. So that's sad.
Well,
That being said, if I may, I would highly recommend that you consider my deputy, Neil Minotti, as the next chief. He's got the administrative experience working with me, working on grants. He's got the legal experience, looking up as a detective, investigative experience, tactical knowledge. He's the deputy commander of the Semlec SWAT team, and I can't think of a finer person to replace me. So I hope you listen to those words, because he deserves it. And I'd like to see somebody from the inside. They're ready. So
That's wonderful, Chief.
that's great.
Thank you.
basically it.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll be seeing you before October 4th.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Hey, thank you for everything.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Can I say one thing?
Of course.
Yeah, Chief, before you leave,
No, I'm not putting a stop sign over.
I'll get that done on August 5th.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that, he, you know, and everybody knows this, he's brought so much to the department and to the job. He truly has, and the staff that we have down there, has just grown and grown and grown, and it's been a lot of changeover, and he's just done such a fabulous job of doing that, and he realized that he was in a community, I don't know if everybody knows, he came from Woonsocket, and you can tell the accent when he says coffee.
Come on.
So he came from a big community and a you know, tough community, I think, you know, and took the chief role here. You were captain there?
That's right, Detective Commander.
Yep. And fit into the community, I think, right away, and was very approachable, and I think he was good to the men. He was good to this board and the TA, and served as our interim TA for many years when our TA wasn't here. Tim chose him to run the ship, you know, which Chief might not have been too happy about, but he was willing to do it, and be that point of contact for everybody that worked for the community. So, you know, he's certainly going to be missed, and it's going to leave a huge hole. And Neil is a great individual, great man.
You
and,
couldn't ask for a better
and I
person.
appreciate the recommendation, but you know, there's only one Norm Crapo.
I appreciate that. And somebody mentioned earlier Charlie Bolek. And I remember before I was appointed, I was told by Russ Connor, you have to go see Charlie before you get, and it took me about half an hour to find where his office was. Because if anybody's familiar with that building, though, I don't think it's there anymore. You know, the Grafton News and all that, but we hit it off like that, and I got on the appointments with Job Corps and Tufts, the community committee and other senior center. So it was great.
Yeah.
It was great. Like I said, everybody's been great, and couldn't ask for a better place. It's
You
been
gonna
a
stay
pleasure.
in town? You gonna stay here?
In town?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, no plans right now. It's funny, when I was appointed in August 24th, we moved, we closed the week before Christmas, and my wife gave Christmas dinner. So, but I wanted to get in town right away, because the commute to Cumberland was a little long, especially coming out, you know, for calls at night and whatnot. So, no, it all worked out. Kids went through the Grafton schools, both graduated from high school here, and they loved it too. So,
No, this is, Chief, you accidentally, I think, said August 4th. I think you meant
August 24th, when I started.
No, your retirement date.
October.
October. Right, just
Oh, it's October.
Yes.
October.
That's why I said August 5th. I'd get the
no,
sign up.
October.
That's why.
Yeah. I was just
You
making sure.
Yeah, all right.
August
little-
25th.
No,
a little
I'm looking-
concerned.
Work on that.
October, October.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank
And
you professionally and personally, Chief, for everything that you've done for the community and for me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. We'll be talking to you. Take care.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay.
It's a bomb.
Moving on to the Lake Quincy Commission report. Okay. And do we have, is it Bill here? Yep. Hi, Bill. Come on up. Thanks for your patience. And we all did get information from you. Everyone saw the in your packet and whatnot. Yep. Thanks.
Okay, Bill Nelson. I've been the Lake Quinsigamon Commissioner appointed by the Grafton Select Board for the last 6 years. And since everyone else mentioned it, I've also been a resident of Grafton for now my 45th year. So I'm a little bit of a long-term person. I sent you a report of what happened over the last year, actually going back more than a year to represent some of the background for what was done on the commission last year. at the beginning of last month, and I'm sure you've all read it because you've had it for a month and a half. So I don't want to take a lot of your time and bore you by somehow repeating all that verbally right now. So what I'd like to do is answer your questions, and if there's any time left over, go into the four. Since a month and a half has gone by since that was submitted to you, the four current issues that are bothering the commission now since summer has started and the lake is real busy. So I'd be glad to answer any of your questions.
Okay. Anyone on the board have any questions? Nope. Okay, so maybe we're getting a little bit tired, but anything that you can give us in terms of what we can do to support what's going on?
Okay, yes, and basically go into four issues. One of them is basically I'm going to sort of repeat what I believe, and I believe most of the other members on the commission think is their responsibility very briefly. And then I'm going to talk about the three most recent issues that some have actually been in the telegrams recently that are affecting the lake. Basically, to start with, and I believe this is the first couple of paragraphs of the report, is that the commissioners and the Lake Commission consider that they've got two duties. The first and most foremost one, and I've certainly learned this over the last 6 years I've been on the commission, is that a huge number of different people and different activities share the lake. And our number one duty is to make sure they all get equal time on it. And nobody is special, starting with the least powered boats, the kayaks, the paddle boards, the canoes, the rowboats have their time in the lake. Then the sailboats have their time in the lake. The water skiers and the wakeboarders have their time in the lake. The older people on their pontoon boats, the jet skis, probably the most high powered, they all get to share the lake, along with the residents and the swimmers and the fishermen and the various regattas that are held in the lake, whether it's sailing or rowing or wakeboarding or adaptive water skiing for veterans, etc. And so we try to do our best to make sure that everybody gets the time in the lake. And some of it's easy, like the rowers like smooth water, and so they're out there at 5:30 in the morning, and the rest of the people would prefer to sleep late. Along with some of the paddle boarders and the kayakers, because they want to stay away from the motorboats as well. The water skiers come out. It's not till 10:30. The wind comes up and the sailors come out. Most of the jet skiers get off work 3:30 or 4 and show up, and so they really cover the lake later on in the day. Most of the retirees with their pontoon boats prefer to wait till the sun's not directly overhead and later in the afternoon or evening putt around the lake with their grill going on their pontoon boat. And so that's worked well the 6 years I've been there. The second issue of the two important ones is preserving the lake, not only for all the present users, but also for our children and grandchildren and future generations after that. And this means worrying about nutrients flowing into the lake, weed infestations, pollution from another breakdown of the Worcester Sewage Plant on Belmont Street, people walking their dogs on Belmont Hill and then having a rainstorm and all of what the dogs leave behind gets washed into the lake under the Route 9 bridge, and handling the sort of problems that might end up making Lake Quinsigamond and Flint Pond less desirable than they are today. And that gets us into the control of weeds, aquatic weeds. I've said an awful lot about that and what I have been involved in particular in the report I sent you, but if you might have been reading the Telegram Gazette in the last week, you probably heard about the stories that there's a group in Worcester now that has aroused quite a bit of interest from the Lakes and Ponds group of the Worcester City government about using herbicides in the lake. Are they dangerous? And wouldn't it be better to use weed pulling to get rid of all the leaves? I'm just going to speak on this briefly. First of all, the weed pulling, it costs about $2,700 for an acre for the large machines. They can't do more than an acre or two a day. It's like $500 per acre for the herbicide weed treatment. So there's a huge cost difference. Some of the more expensive weed pulling, such as the Dash, which is diver-assisted suction pumping. Basically can't be used in most of the weed beds because there's not enough light for the diver to see what he's doing. But the reason that is better is because and I'll mention it in a minute, most of the alien invasive weeds don't spread by seeds. They spread by fragmentation. So if a mechanical chopper is trying to remove the weeds that they can get from the surface, breaks them up into pieces, you're really just making it worse. But the important thing I want to say is the members of the Lake Commission are not biological experts, chemists. They are not the people who decide what gets used. We have to go through 6 agencies, the ones who make permits, starting with the U.S. federal government's Environmental Protection Agency, limiting very few chemicals can be used in water. Then the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Agency is even stricter, limiting the things. And then we come to the Mass Fish and Wildlife, particularly the Department of Endangered Species and National Heritage. They're incredibly strict on what we can use. And finally, the last 3 agencies that are the ones who make the decision and sign the papers on the permits that the chemicals can be used, the Grafton Conservation Commission, the Worcester Conservation Commission, and the Shrewsbury Conservation Commission, since they're the 3 entities around the lake. And so what herbicides are used are very, very limited. I can say more on what they are and what they're used for if you have more questions. But this problem of that's creating a controversy now is very much not something that's being decided by the Lake Commission. We try to keep everybody using the lake happy, and I'll say some more about the finances. We try to help finance some of the efforts that's going on. And the reason, of course, this is important to Grafton, I'll end with, is the fact that the weed infestations in the lake, particularly the worst ones, which are in the East Basin of Flint Pond, flow down into Harvey Pond, down the Quinsigamon River, into Lake Ripple, into Fisherville Pond, and just create the same problem there that we're trying to cure on the lake. So the more we can do to clear the lake and keep open water, the more we're doing for Grafton. That sort of covers the first issue of the 3. The second issue is law enforcement. My 6 years on the commission, basically we've had no problems other than a few residents complaining early in the spring in March and April when the college crews start racing. Some of the coaches used to use amplified megaphones and it woke them up. And that was sort of the most extreme type complaint we had. Nowadays, and particularly last year and this year, we've had a very serious problem with transient jet skiers. These are groups of people who get together, young people, 19, 20, 21, rent jet skis, and they're coming from the city of Lawrence, or Lowell, or even out of state from Hartford. And they're coming to Lake Quinsigamon on weekends, planning to just constantly use the jet skis, changing people every 20 minutes or so and racing around the lake. And they're thinking of sort of, the only thing I can compare it to is early days when the automobile was first invented. There was no such thing as racetracks, and everyone who wanted to race thought the public streets were appropriate for racing. Now, jet skis have governors on them as manufacturers that limit them to 70 miles an hour, but they're very easy to defeat. And a lot of these people just not only do not have any idea of how to use one. A lot of them, they on them for the first time. They have no idea what the rules of the road are on Lake Quinsigamon, what the general rules are in water, and it's been very bad. They circles around the people in their rowboats and other boats, splashing up waves, damaging docks. And so we had a special subcommittee convened all winter with law enforcement from Shrewsbury and Worcester, the environmental police and the state police, and decided to do something to correct this. And we got, in particular, Senator Mike Moore to submit a budget to the State House and got an extra $50K donated to the environmental police to use for substituting Worcester and Shrewsbury on their enforcement on the lake for overtime pay for the officers in the law enforcement, which was a great help. Also, Worcester bought a new boat for use on the lake, which is much smaller and able to get into the more lagoons and other parts of the lake and into Flint Pond under the bridge under Route 20 for their police, and gave their much larger boat to the fire department to use for their dive team when there were regattas on the lake. Shrewsbury also bought a new small police boat as well as a jet ski. So now it has a jet ski to chase some of the jet skiers when they run and hide in the Flint Pond. And the law enforcement in the lake is incredible. In the month of, and I'll just quote 1 month, June, I believe it was 187 stoppages, tickets or arrests. There's a category of like 30 different ones, but the total was 187 in the month of June, minus the last 5 days when the report was put together, which is greater than all of the stoppage on the lake last year, summer total, and late spring and early fall. So that is working well, but the problem that they have run into, and I'll mention something about this later, is that, as you probably know, that it's hard to employ people in businesses and elsewhere. They like to have 2 people on each police boat when they do law enforcement, and there's a shortage of officers, both in Worcester now and Shrewsbury. Sometimes they have to send a boat out with just 1 person on it, or no boat, and I'll get back to that in a minute. I don't want to take any more time. I'm talking a little too much. So let me go on to the next point, which is basically finances. You know better than I do about what it's like. There are all sorts of residents who have lots of things they want to do. There are things that your committee wants to do. There's never enough finances to do all of it. It's very hard to decide which is the best things to do, which are the things that can be done. And so the Lake Commission is not all powerful. The city, the town of Shrewsbury donates $30,000 each year. We have approximately the same amount in boat fees and dock fees that we collect. The city of Worcester used to donate an equal amount, but now it is providing an equal amount in services. And the town of Grafton's Conservation Commission donates $5,000 each year, as you probably know. And that's not a lot of money to do a lot of stuff. Except this year, again, Mike Moore got, the Lake Commission donated a second $50,000, not to the environmental police, but to the commission. We're using $10,000 of that to perform a drawdown of water in Newton Pond, just at the West Boylston border, which is the main inflow where all of the invasive weeds come into Lake Quinsigamon, and also using mechanical harvesting to get some open water there to start with herbicide weed treatments in later years, which hopefully they'll help pay. But since this is the main inflow of invasive weeds into Lake Quinsigamon, we're finding we're going to have to also treat that sort of problem there. Mentioning about invasive inflows, I should just mention another thing that I forgot to say about the herbicide use. All of the experts that I've heard mention this, and when we start talking about herbicides, they actually say there's over 100 separate inflows into Lake Quinsigamon, which exit through the Quinsigamon River into Grafton, that they're more worried about what industrial chemicals and other things are in those 100 inflows than they are about the 3 very weak herbicides that the Lake Commission might have used on some of the weed beds in the lake. So I guess that sort of covers everything except one point I want to mention. And unfortunately, the chief's not here. I had discussions with him when I first became a lake commissioner 6 years ago, and he did a very good job pointing out to me all the things he wanted to do and all of the resources he did not have for wanting to do the things. And so there was really not much they could do to help the Lake Commission. But I just have had this thought, and I want to mention it. And I understand I'm not a member of law enforcement, and the last thing I want to do is get between 2 different bodies of law enforcement, because I had that problem when I was still working between the Secret Service and the FBI when I worked at the forensics lab for the CTIA for clone cell phones. And but there's a shortage, and there's going this summer, and there's going to be one next summer for help on the lake. And I just think, and I might think this is great because I do not know enough about what's correct here in law enforcement, but if the Grafton Police Department was willing to provide some help, to the officers on the lake from Shrewsbury and Worcester, a second person on the boat, they would have to, of course, take the Environmental Police Marine Training course during, say, this winter, but then Grafton's Police Department would have officers with experience on the water for life-saving and other things, and some of that money, the pay for it, would come conceivably from the Environment Police and not the Grafton's budget. So that's just one thing I'm throwing out as a possible thing to look at. It's different now than it was, 6 years ago, but it could help to improve the situation on the lake. Now, that was a very superficial and quick summary, but if you've got any more questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions from the board?
No, it was great. For the update.
So the fees or the tickets that they're giving out, that money, is that Shrewsbury Police that essentially gets
It's totally in the hands of the law enforcement.
Yeah, so either Worcester
whichever department hands out the tickets, they go to court, and that's in the existing justice
I was
system.
curious.
None of it flows back to the Lake Commission.
No, I understood. I just was curious. Yeah, I guess, the other thing, just takeaway would be like, what can we do, if anything, more for our waterways right here in Grafton with the vegetation and whatnot, and I assume conservation, you talk to them and.
Okay, I can say a little bit more of this. As you go down the Quinsigamond River, of course, turns into Blackstone and at the southern border of Grafton. But the Blackstone Valley River Coalition is doing an incredible amount to try and clean up the Blackstone, starting down in Rhode Island and working its way up. They're doing water sampling all the way up. And I didn't mention this, we help fund water sampling for both the immediate problems of cyanobacteria bloom suddenly and the water's dangerous for pets and people swimming, or is there E. coli and people, we have to close the swimming beach and stuff, and that's done all summer long. We also do the long range stuff with regards to the invasive weeds and trying to correct things and find a way to correct that. But the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association, a separate organization, is doing a wonderful job on weed pulling of the water chestnuts in Lake Quinsigamond and around. And I'm actually going to join them. I've done it several times with them the past 2 years this Saturday. And so anybody who wants to do water chestnut pulling, they're collecting this Saturday morning at 9 a.m. at Gouch Park, where that's the main street that comes out of Shrewsbury to go to Lincoln Street Mall, where Poor Farm Brook flows right into the top of Lake Quinsigamond. That bridge there just below where 290.
We've got a place right here that we could do it.
Yeah. And no, it's wonderful to attend one of them because they have experts that have come up from Rhode Island to help them, and you attend one and you learn like I did, so much about what needs to be done and how to do it rather than trying to start it yourself. So that's certainly one thing. Another thing, there are several things here, is New Hampshire has a wonderful boater safety program. In New Hampshire, and this has been around so long, I can't say how long it's been. But in order to drive any boat with a motor in New Hampshire, you have to get something which is called a boater's license. You have to take a course, and you have to pass it, and then you get your boater's license. It's exactly the same as a driver's license. In the Massachusetts legislature now, I think it's House Bill 4489, called the Hansen Bill, and in the Senate, I think it's Senate S. 536, 536. They're being discussed, and they're moved from several committees into the final committees. They're to create this boater safety bill in Massachusetts. Anything that a member of the select board or any Grafton resident can do, contact your House representative, your senator, and speak to them and say you're in support of it. That could help.
Okay. Great.
And of course, the last one, our budget is strapped. And as I said, you know about this. Any more financial help that we could get. Actually, this week, we have one of our hired aquatic biologist experts is surveying the east basin of Flint Pond for all of the invasive weeds, and then also the density of the native as well as the invasive weeds, getting ready for weed treatment this summer. We never have enough money for the weed treatment. We never have enough money to pay all of the experts that they're incredibly expensive because they're the only ones allowed to handle these chemicals and do these treatments, and they've got the training, the upper level college degrees, etc. So any more financial help as well to the Lake Quinsigamond Commission would be very, very beneficial. I could say other things, but again, taking up too much of your time.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your expertise and all the work that you and the committee is doing. Thanks for coming in, Bill.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
If anyone has, Evan?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, you're
I
just
was waving goodbye.
Okay, great, thank you. So moving on to the right of first refusal on 179 and 183 Upton Street. Sorry, let me just scooch over here. Are there?
So, Madam
Yep,
Chair?
go ahead, yep.
So there are 2 lots left for the completion of us purchasing the land around Silver Lake. These are the last 2. And if you recall, the last time the previous 2 lots came up, the board voted to exercise its right of first refusal and to buy it at the price that was locked in through the bona fide offer. So in this case, in order to repeat that, if that's what the board is interested in doing, we would want to exercise our right of first refusal and match the price of $430,000 for those final 2. One thing to note, we do have 120 days from when we get the notice to exercise your right of first refusal, and so far you've only received 2 letters, I believe, in support of purchase. I don't have any doubt that the other 2 will come in, so it's really at the board's pleasure whether you vote tonight, should you choose to go down this path, to exercise your right of first refusal and start the process now, or whether you wait for the other 2 inputs to come in.
Okay.
And who are we waiting on?
Come on, Andy.
CPC.
Yeah, I think it's CPC and planning. Planning, it's before planning on the 22nd.
Speak to CPC if you want.
I highly doubt that CPC would be opposed to this purchase based on past experience.
And I've seen an email
We are not.
related
We are
to
very
it,
much
yeah.
in support of this purchase.
Yep.
So just, I guess before the motion, any discussion from the board on this?
Just exactly on the map is tough to read here, so if you could describe or show exactly where these parcels are. It says Upton Street.
Yeah, so
Right, so it's on 140?
yeah, they're the 2 final lots. So if you were
There's a sold sign on it.
yeah, if you go past
Drive by.
Stowe Road,
Yep.
they're on your left hand side as you approach the lake. They're those final 2. William's pulling it up right now.
If you're coming down Stowe Road?
Right here.
I was going past it.
140.
So you go down.
And
I,
this
I
is,
do everything in relation to where Maggie's dam is.
There you go.
There's Stowe Road.
Okay.
Enhance, William. Enhance.
Do you want the detailed map, or is this good?
No, that's good.
That's fine.
So it's 11B and 11. These 2 right here.
And if you scroll it out a little, William, you'll show where Stowe Road is, just up there.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So this has been, part of the open space and rec
Yeah.
master plan. Grafton Land Trust has been, keeping their eye on this, as has CPC. So, yep.
Madam
Rob?
Chair.
Oh, yep, go ahead,
I
Andy.
was just gonna say, I think this is the end game for all this. This is what we've been shooting for. They're the final 2. We've been waiting on them. I personally don't have any problem voting on this tonight without the opinion of the other 2 boards and committees.
Madam Chair?
Mr. Upton?
I'll just concur with that.
Yep.
This has long been planned. It's, we own all the parcels around it. It's in a critical environmental area with, watersheds and yeah, so it's pretty much a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I mean, we do have Rob here, we have Colin from CPC, but I'm not sure that you've sat here for the whole time, I'm not sure if we need any more input from anyone.
Okay.
Anything from you two? Well, no, I'm just throwing it out there, 'cause
Just the timeline. That was my question as far as how we, do we have time to wait for fall town meeting? If the board votes to pursue the purchase, or do we have to have a special, I guess?
So one thing that we can do is work with the seller to arrange for, this is when our date is, and if they will agree to that, then we have no issue. So that's generally my first part of the process, is to reach out and
Yeah.
say, we want to exercise a right of first refusal. This is our October date. Can we do that? Most times that's acceptable and it causes no issue. If it did cause an issue, then yes, we might have to have a special.
Well, because if it didn't pass town meeting, then they could potentially lose the buyer, right? So
Right.
we will get that in writing, that they're in agreement to wait?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And that will happen,
Soon.
yeah. Well, I'm just thinking if they
Yeah.
say, no, we can't wait, then. we
Yeah,
need
no,
time to
I
plan
believe that this is the same conversation we had.
Yeah, I think
with the
that's
last
what happened
with the last
before.
one.
Okay,
So
all right.
which wasn't that long ago. It
no,
seems.
it was last year. I think.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Since I've been on board, the other two of them, I think, came up, one
Yes.
or two.
Two,
And
yeah.
this is another two, so at least they know what they're,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna follow, I think,
Doing.
the same process we did last time. And
Okay.
if we run into any hiccups, we'll let you know and
Yeah.
go that route.
okay.
Okay. Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo,
I move the board vote to exercise our right of first refusal and purchase Lot 3 at 179 Upton Street and Lot 4 at 183 Upton Street for $430,000.
Second.
I have a motion made and a second. Any further discussion? Barring none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Great, and thanks for coming in, those who did to speak to this, but, again, this, like as Andy said, we've been ready for this. Okay, moving on to H, the amendment, I'm on the wrong one here, but,
Amendment number one.
municipal agreement for go ahead.
Yep, so this is an IMA that we have had longstanding in Grafton, essentially from the start of the MS4 stormwater permitting process through the federal government and the EPA. So this is just a continuation of that IMA. I have spoken to the town engineer and DPW director, both are in favor of us continuing this relationship.
Okay, great. Any questions for Evan from the board? Take a motion. Oh, sorry,
This
Andy.
one's pretty quick. Just for clarification, no changes to service, the agreement any other way. It's just Shrewsbury taking over the lead from Spencer in this
Correct.
scenario.
Yes, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to approve amendment number 1 to intermunicipal agreement for participation in the Central Massachusetts Regional Stormwater Coalition and authorize the town administrator to sign.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And motion carries 5-0. The next item is the Chapter 90 reimbursement request. Give this to Evan.
So this, while it is a different area, so this is the engineering of Main Street. This is a pretty standard process that the board undertakes every time we go through and do our MassDOT state aid reimbursement request. So we are looking to get reimbursed from the state of Massachusetts $498,940.84. And so the process is that the board votes to send the reimbursement, which you'd be crazy not to. It's our money.
Okay.
Well, in that case,
Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Any questions from the board?
Just one.
Yep.
So this is the, Main Street, South Grafton, CMRPC whole project, so this was.
Correct.
This is the town's portion, to fund this job?
Correct.
Okay,
And we're paying it through Chapter 90.
okay.
Did you have your hand up, Matt?
I'm gonna take it back down. How's
Why
that?
can't we do that as Zoom?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to approve and sign the Chapter 90 reimbursement request as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And then the next, we're gonna talk about the Veterans Advisory Committee charge review, which is in our packet. There are some red line items, but, just changing to committee versus board, and then it seems we had discussed this at a previous meeting, actually it was brought to us from someone on the committee that instead of doing this every 1 year thing, that we could do it consistent with other boards with a 3 year. Is there anything else you want? I think we might just
No, that was
take
pretty
it
much
over
it.
on that, but I thought it was a great idea when the gentleman brought it to us. So essentially just some small red lines and then just changing it to be consistent with the 3 year terms. Is there any discussion on this or questions? Okay, Mr. Alamo?
I move the board, Madam Chair, I move the board to vote to approve and sign the Veterans Advisory Committee charge as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries 5-0. And last, no, not last yet. The conservation restriction at 62 Wesson Road.
Yep, so this is a little bit different of a process than we normally do for conservation restrictions. Normally, that process is a restriction in perpetuity, and that goes through the Conservation Commission and then gets attached to the deed. In this particular case, there was kind of some hiccups with the design that was proposed to the Conservation Commission. Then there was some misunderstandings of the length of terms and so on and so forth. So the owner of the property came to meet with me. We then worked with the Conservation Commission to kind of come up with a hybrid solution that was agreeable to both parties. And this is what we came up with. So these are 30-year conservation restrictions on the 3 lots. They basically hold 0.3 acres of each of the lots in conservation, so that a couple of things can happen. One, we can enter the property with reasonable notice to make sure that things are being adhered to, but also protect some critical wildlife areas that are running across the back of all 3 of these lots. So after really a few months of back and forth, this is what we came up with. So part of this being a different process is that the board actually votes these conservation restrictions into existence. They are for 30 years with 20-year extensions.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jefferson.
The extensions voted on by both parties?
Yes, but the yes.
But
no, I was gonna say something else, but then I was thinking of the wrong thing, so I'm gonna put my hand back down.
why didn't we do these like in perpetuity as opposed to 30 years?
So, in essence, the town of Grafton has no leverage to play on any of these properties. So the only reason that a conservation restriction is really coming into existence on these properties is because that was the presentation from the engineer at the time at the Conservation Commission. None of these conservation restrictions are placed on lands that are jurisdictional to the commission. So you could either argue forever that we want them in perpetuity, even though we really have no basis to demand that, or we could come to kind of a hybrid approach where we were able to protect these sensitive areas even though they're non-jurisdictional, and that's pretty much it.
Makes sense.
Was a lot of back and forth to get to where we are.
Yeah,
It's different than what we would normally. An engineer proposes a conservation restriction that means that it's in perpetuity. It's the same process we do over and over again. Usually, it's jurisdictional to the Conservation Commission, and it just rolls through the process.
Why was an engineer representing the owner before conservation? Just wondering what's the genesis of all this?
I honestly don't know. That was prior to my involvement. I believe it has to do with the fact that the engineer believed some of it would be jurisdictional and then it was not.
Interesting.
It was a kind of a mess. So,
is that the technical term?
It really is. It really is. Yeah, I mean, when I got involved, the Conservation Commission was dead set on in perpetuity, and the landowner, who in this case is the Willard Clock Museum, wanted no restriction, and so again, this is the middle ground that we came to. I think it's good for that area. I think it's good for Grafton and wildlife, and I think it's a good middle ground.
They're all on this number 62. It's just all the same.
Yeah, it's lots 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jefferson.
just talking out loud to fill some space, I guess.
Please do.
It was, we haven't enough tonight, right? I was a little confused and concerned about the 30-year application, just because I know we're so diligent in protecting some of these other areas. I love the restriction. I'm admittedly right down the road. I think we have a lot of invasive plants, non-native plants in that area too, that I'd love to see, get under control and whatnot. I'm anticipating that 30 years from now, we won't be less focused on the environment, and the charge will be taken up to extend the measure. If not, a 74-year-old Andy Jefferson might be in here waving his fist at whatever that iteration of the board looks like. But
74-year-old Evan will not be. Just to be clear, I don't want to set expectations right now.
Evan.
Can't have that high.
I think I'm winning. Okay. Just so people know, we got this late, so we're all just
Yeah,
up to speed
digesting.
on it. Okay. I mean, we don't have jurisdiction to change this anyway. It's going to conservation upcoming soon.
Tonight.
When is that?
Tonight they're
Okay,
doing it
at the same time.
Yeah, same time.
I bet they're done.
I'm sure they are.
This is so
They
much
don't
more
have an
fun,
Andy
though.
Jefferson and a Mark
Well, if
Allen.
you wouldn't talk to Phil's face.
How'd I get there?
Okay. Any other discussion or questions from the board?
Nope, Madam Chair.
Mr. Alamo.
I move that the select board vote pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 8C, to approve the Conservation Commission's acceptance of 3 conservation restrictions from Willard House and Clock Museum Incorporated on land identified as 62 Weston Street, lots 1, 2, and 3, and authorize the select board members to execute all necessary documents in connection therewith.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Thank you, Mark. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And so it passes 5-0, and you can let them know upstairs or wherever they are.
Home.
I'm doing the best I can.
No, you're doing great.
Okay, moving along to 17 and 27 Upton Street. I asked to have this on the agenda, just to have a discussion about what's going on at this property, what's been going on, through Affordable Housing Trust. Obviously, a lot of changes in that committee and whatnot. So just kind of open it up to some discussion relative to this property, and any questions or concerns, or, take it from there.
Yeah, I asked Emery to put this on, and thank you for doing that. I know we had a full agenda tonight. But being the new guy on the block here, and I've heard some things about the project, but just wanted to get kind of an overview from you, Evan, as far as we looked at the agreement, but I know that there's been some scope changes with what's being proposed from what was originally proposed as far as commercial percentage versus residential. And so I wanted to kind of talk about that. I know they're in front of planning now, and what the Affordable Houses Trust is doing, and then has the board had any discussions about impact to traffic or any type of town services when we put a 128 unit project on a couple acres, about 300 yards from from the town center where we know we already have some traffic concerns. So, don't know if the board has talked about that. Maybe it's early, but something that we need to look at, and I'm sure they're talking about it in planning. So I guess just an overview of where we started and where we are.
Sure. I'll go back to, just briefly back to 2021. When I got here, we were right at the end of the RFP process. This was myself and Chris McGoldrick and Affordable Housing Trust and everybody that was here at the time. We only had one proposal, and that was from GSX, who still has the purchase and sale today. At the time, it did have some mixed use on the property. It had some commercial on the lower level. It also envisioned some different parking structures and a little bit different layout, especially including the 17 end of the property. Since that time and through the planning process, that project has changed. I will say that is not abnormal. As we go through the planning process, there's often changes, and I think that there's also been some market changes as well. Retail on a lower level of a unit or just mixed use in general is not the same as it was in the late 90s, early 2000s. That mall type of envision, the mini mall, is not really the business model that people are pursuing now, especially with the pressures we have in the state of Massachusetts for housing and to create housing. So through the planning board process, as it's gone on, the project has shifted, and so there's now no commercial component to that. It's all housing. There is a traffic study and a peer review traffic study as part of the planning board process. And I think that the planning board knows what they're doing as far as reviewing those documents and making sure they're in good shape. I do anticipate, and this is not a foregone conclusion, obviously, because I'm not on the board, but I would anticipate that the planning board process wraps up on July 22nd. That would be my guess. That's what it looks like. I think that they've jumped through all the hurdles that they need to, they being GSX, and I don't see much writing on the wall that it would go beyond that. I did have a meeting with GSX last week, in which they showed us some kind of updated plans just to match what the planning board was asking them. And I think that given what I've seen at the planning board and what they showed me at our last meeting, that they've met the criteria that the planning board was asking for. So I think that that'll be that. As far as the Affordable Housing Trust, and I am not an expert on the Affordable Housing Trust, and I know Matt and Andy attend more regularly and probably watch more regularly, but essentially what happened is that the Affordable Housing Trust created a grant process by which they would fund some of the project in order to get more affordable, or not more affordable, affordable units in the project.
In perpetuity.
In perpetuity, excuse me. And I think that's 30 units, if I'm not mistaken. And so that grant process is, again, well underway, and that's kind of, I don't know where else to go.
Yeah, all right. So we're putting 128 units on 2 acres, 2+ acres.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the Affordable Housing Trust? What was the agreement there as far as this grant? So it's not a 40B,
right?
Correct. So
correct.
it's just a big multifamily project.
Correct.
And they're giving a sum of money to the developer. The agreement was $600,000 for the property.
625.
Okay.
Or was it 650? I'm sorry.
So the Affordable Housing Trust got involved with it, and what is the agreement there?
So
go ahead.
I could speak to that.
Go ahead.
All right.
Yes.
Sure.
Please. Thank you.
So the housing trust is basically purchasing affordable units. So they had proposed a certain amount. It was 20%. We bought up to, with a sum of money, we bought up to 25%, which does add that 30 units. So that the town benefits because we get to count all of the units in the whole development against our SHI.
Because they're rentals.
Because they're rentals, yep. So we hit that 25% threshold, so the whole development counts against the SHI, which will be considerable. The grant agreement also obviously adds additional affordable units at a cost that is considerably less than the trust could build. So, I mean, just looking at the construction costs of anything, the cost that the trust is funding the developer to build those additional or designate those additional units is significantly less than it would cost to develop, and the trust doesn't have to bear the responsibility of and logistics of building something. So we're essentially piggybacking on something that the town has already said was acceptable. So, you know, we put an overlay district on this area specifically to allow for this kind of density. So that when the town put this out to RFP, this is exactly what was envisioned. There was some definitely some discussion of a commercial component there, and that it's unfortunate that the developer isn't continuing to do that. But everything that they're doing is very much by right and in line with the overlay district that we put there. So they're not doing any, they're not asking for a whole bunch of waivers or to do anything substantially different than what was envisioned when we first put the overlay district in there. So,
Okay.
Does that make sense? I printed out a copy of the agreement.
No, I appreciate that.
If
So,
you want it?
No,
so originally, developer's going to do 20%.
I thought it was 10%,
I believe it was 10%.
because if it was 20, then you only gain like 6 units per 1 point whatever million.
Sorry, my math
It's
is
okay,
off
no,
on that.
no worries.
So we bought from 10% to 25%.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that makes all the units affordable.
So it's from
So
12
what was
units to 30.
what are we giving what is the Affordable Housing Trust paying for those units, for those 15%, which is like 25 units, or, because it's 128 units, right? Whatever that,
whatever that.
what is, like, what is the Affordable Housing Trust paying?
It's 1.8 million for all the units, minus whatever we can claw back from the developer in the way of permit relief from the town. So similar to what we were going to do on Pine Street, we can and have agreed to provide some relief to the developer in terms of permits, water connection fees, those sorts of things, and the trust can then be reimbursed to get that back. So that it's a partnership between the town, the trust, and the developer.
Okay. So how much money does the trust approximately have in their account? Just
I think it's about that, maybe.
so the trust is cutting a check to this developer for 1.8 million, and it's giving us 15% more affordable units on a 128 unit project. Is that a fair statement?
Seems to me they're getting 18 extra units out of it. But
Why would we give, I mean, I haven't gone to any of the Affordable Housing Trust meetings, but we're giving a check, and for $1.8 million to a developer that's paying $625,000 for the project for 15% more affordable units. We couldn't build, and if that represents 25 or 30 units, we couldn't build 30 units for $1.8 million?
Nope.
Well, how much is that? I don't even know what that is a square foot. I mean,
there is something in here, there's $200,000 coming back upon the sale. It's a GSX obligation. There's something about this $3,500 per unit, that they would be reimbursed. So there is some sort of a deal, which it's a little unclear to me, but, that there would be potential reimbursement to the trust. But, I guess just to reel it in a little bit, this agreement, while it doesn't have a date on it, by the way, but there was an agreement made by the Affordable Trust with GSX. That's, was voted on by that board, and whether or not we think it's worth it to spend 1.8 million for potentially 18 units is the way I think the math is coming out for me. They entered into an agreement, and we also have a purchase and sale, which I thought was, the 2 years was in October, but in fact, there was a 6-month lapse that I remember today, so we actually entered into that in April of my first term on this board, and we gave them a 2-year, not everyone voted in favor of that, but a 2-year extension on that PNS. So we are currently still within that PNS on our end. And I'll allow everyone to speak, again, if you so choose, but for me, I definitely want to make sure that the trust, and Matt, our new representative on there, just for me really tightens up, the financial piece of it, because I do watch a lot of the meetings, and it's taken me a bit to try to sort this out, even with having been here when we voted on this. I went to the envisioning for this project back with Tim many years ago, so I've been here since the beginning of this whole thing, and it is a lot. And then just to confirm that everyone on the trust is able to verbalize where the money is, how much money is here, how much we're spending. I do think from listening to your last meeting, it sounds like you're gonna work on tightening that up, but that for me is a concern and an issue for sure. And just to throw out there that this is a project that, folks have some concerns about in our town. Whether you agree with that or not, it doesn't quite matter. But there are people out there that do have some concerns about where this is, the density, etc. And again, to your point, Matt, we know that this is what it looked like. It did look different. Parking was underneath. There was going to be a beer garden in the barn. I mean, that's all in that original RFP from GSX from 2021. So there have been, some somewhat significant changes, one could say. But to your point, things change in terms of the market, but it should be noted that that's something that has occurred. So I guess that's kind of my 2 cents on it for now.
And Evan, they're within their right to change the scope, change the RFP that the board voted to accept.
Yes. Yep.
So, Madam Chair, I'd just like to address a couple of those points. In terms of the density, that they're building by right, so that's the density that the zone allows, that town meeting voted for by a 2/3 vote. The residents of Grafton voted to have housing there with some density, and that's what we're getting. It's funny. It's a little bit funny, Craig, to hear you're spending money from the trust. What we've heard for quite a long time is that the trust isn't spending its money, that you guys have just this big bank account there, and it's really difficult to get affordable housing. It's really difficult to build it because there's a stigma to it. People are concerned. They have there's a lot of just public concern and active opposition to affordable housing. So it's a difficult and very takes a long time to do, and you've got to take the opportunities when you can to spend the money and to build units, because it takes so long and it takes so much to get it through all of the bureaucracy and whatnot to be able to do the work so that we can provide affordable homes in Grafton. It is, the reality of it is that the money that the trust is spending, even if we get no reimbursement from town permit relief, is cheaper. It's just cheaper than for the trust to build it. And we have significantly less hurdles to go through than if we were to try to build something. If Emery, you were at the trust meetings, you saw the kind of opposition that we got to 25 Worcester. And we would get that kind of opposition no matter where we were going to build, no matter what we were going to build. That's just how it goes. So I think the trust is really trying to do the best that it can to fulfill its mission. It's building economical units at the, even if it gets no reimbursements. And it is going to help our SHI a lot, which, you know, my idea is that once we get past the 10%, that it puts Grafton back in the driver's seat in terms of 40Bs. So I hope what will happen is that the planning board and ZBA will get together with the select board, and we can talk about ways that we can continue to support, you know, building out of housing in Grafton, but just in a more manageable way, where Grafton is in the driver's seat in terms of what we want and where we want it. This is a great way to support that sort of vision. I'm concerned about how that's going to go once we get into Safe Harbor, and but I'm going to trust that, you know, we're going to get through the opposition to housing in general in Grafton and density specifically, and be able to navigate through that. Because we really, you know, if anybody questions the need for additional housing, you know, the state's just required everybody who's along the commuter rail to, you know, add by right highly dense zones to force communities to build housing. That's how much we need it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, but the state doesn't care about the impact of those communities. So any project, whether it's a straight conventional development or it's affordable housing, is going to get opposition. You know, my cousin redid Norcross Park, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. It was a park, and it was an old rundown schoolyard, which was a park, and he made it into a much better and much more improved park with parking and drainage and beautiful fields. And the neighbors crucified him for doing it. You know, that's kind of how it goes. And it doesn't matter what type of an application is. Look what Holden Farm has been through with the neighbors, right? So that's how you know, that's how developments go. And the neighbors show up, and I was on the planning board and I saw it firsthand for you know, time and time again. My hope was that the Affordable Housing Trust would be in the driver's seat and take that money, and, you know, I'd rather see 30 units done correctly or right versus 120 that are going to have potentially negative impact on the town. I guess that's kind of what I look at. We can do affordable housing. I'm not against affordable housing. I guess I'm against massive density. I mean, Upton Street is...
Just to be clear, though, the Housing Trust didn't decide the density of this project.
No, I understand that. So that this project it's an allowed use, but a lot of the other ones are not. Snow Road, Pleasant Street, you know, those are zones that are not allowed, and they're 40B projects, so that they're allowed to go to disregard any local zoning, you know, and then we have to deal with the impact of that, which is kind of how it goes. If it goes up like that for anything, right? My hope is with the Affordable Housing Trust having money that they would have used those, and they would have built some lower density affordable units that were done correctly, that would have complemented the neighborhood that they were in. They would have fit into the, you know, wherever they were done, and we would have added to our inventory. But, you know, we're getting off topic.
Yeah.
You know, what I wanted to find out more about this project and be able to ask some questions and let people know at home what's going on up here, because a lot of people probably don't understand what's coming down the road with this project. And when they start seeing, I don't know if it's a 4-story building going up and 120 new homes, you know, they're going to find out. So,
Okay, yeah,
thanks for the input.
yeah, and
Madam
I
Chair.
think that, yep,
When you finish.
I was gonna kind of just do a little summation, but, go ahead.
So I want to point out that I believe Westboro has a development going on right now where they paid $750,000 to increase the affordable units from 20 to 25%. That's just going up 5%. It's a fairly common practice among trusts. You know, I don't really know what we're doing right now. If I'm being honest, you know, I can understand asking questions to try and get caught up on the topic, but this project hasn't been before this board in a long time. It's with the planning board, it's with conservation. Those would be the appropriate places to ask these questions. Going to an affordable housing trust meeting is the appropriate place to ask these questions.
Okay.
Coming here
Wait
to
a minute.
no, excuse me, I'm not
Go ahead,
finished
go
yet.
ahead, finish.
Coming here to opine when we've provided these public opportunities to do so isn't the time or the place.
Okay, so
Well-
very quickly.
I can ask anything to be put on this agenda.
You can, and
Okay.
I also take umbrage with the fact with how late it was added to the agenda.
Well, that was my decision, so you're taking umbrage with me. So it was well within my purview to put this on, to decide to take something from any of the board members and place it on the agenda, if it was still appropriate and in time to do it. And so I did. And then additionally, I reached out to everybody on the board to let them know what this might look like. So, sorry, I'm just going to, this isn't meant to go off the rails. I think it's important as a board that we have some of these discussions and that people in the audience and the people who may be watching, understand that we're being thoughtful about this, right? We're all coming at it potentially from different directions, and that's fine. That's what makes this work, is that we all have our own different opinions and whatnot. So, with that being said, this is a project that is moving forward, where the best place, to your point, Andy, no matter how you made it, would be to go to the planning board on Monday to bring concerns or issues or what have you, just the public in general, in addition to any of us. And just as the Affordable Housing Trust was encouraged to go to planning board the other evening by the chair of the planning board, then additionally, we can all go there as well as people from home. So I think that at least we all have a understanding of the project. We've expressed some of our concerns relative to it, and I think I would like to move on without anyone just being disrespectful to other board members.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think if we were trying to have a good, constructive discussion about this, we would have at least invited representatives from the Affordable Housing Trust to be there to explain the answers to these questions and be able to answer them.
And they are here.
But they were not invited.
Okay. So, moving along to select board reports. Are there any select board reports?
Yeah, I'll take a minute to thank the
Mr. Jefferson?
4th of
Jefferson?
July Parade Committee for assembling this year's parade. It was another huge success, well attended, a lot of residents there. I think we were close to 40 entrants in the parade itself. It was a great way to celebrate the holiday.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Often.
So the Affordable Housing Trust did meet last week. We got updates both from John Grant from GSX, as well as the folks that we're partnering on for the 25 Worcester Street project. It being 9:27, I think I'll just leave it at that.
Thanks, Matt. Yep, Mr. Duffy.
I just want to recognize the passing of Carol Zambra. If you guys, anybody knew Carol, she was a lifelong South Grafton resident. She was a huge part of that community down there with the Polish Club and the people that have spent their life in that end of town. Great resource for people, and was a friend to so many, and always there to help in any way that she can. So I just she passed recently, and just wanted to ask the board to take a moment of silence for her and her love of this town and her service to Grafton.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Any other reports from the board? All right, town administrator report.
Yep. We'll move fairly quickly. A lot of the deadlines we've been talking about have not come yet, so there's not a lot to update. Millbury Street is still looking at August, September. North Street, we are at the cusp of getting our bids. Those are due July 18th, and we still look to start in September. No real update on the Depot Street Bridge. That's still looking at late fall, early spring start. excuse me, Fitzpatrick Road Bridge. Still working our way through the bid process. That looks like August. We are.
Is that the culvert thing still? Wow.
Yeah, there was that project. Well, it says it here, but it also there was a lot of gas line work there, so that we had to wait for that to be completed before we could do our piece. Still working our way through the design of George Hill, Fay Mountain, Soap Hill, and Leland. Main Street, you just did some of the final reimbursement requests, so we are real close on that. 2024 paving, nothing has started yet. We're actually looking at the first week of August as a start time. So as we get closer to that, and as I get updates on which of these projects will be starting when, I will push that information out both through our normal channels, but also using Code Red for the neighborhoods specifically, so that people will know when that's coming. We are still looking to finish the cupola in August. We're moving right along on that. We may actually be a little bit ahead of schedule, but that's going really well. Tomorrow morning, I think I have a meeting to finish the RFP for architect solicitation for the Regional Communication Center. So making some progress there. I don't have an update on 95 North Street, and I think we made some progress this week on the carpet for the children's room. In speaking with the people from the carpet manufacturer, so I think we're almost done. Will, do you have anything to add to that? But
I don't. I think that sums it up nicely. We've been talking to the manufacturer and the architect who designed the room about how to properly lay down the carpet when it comes in.
so we're right there. We'd be happy to be done with that. These are just general updates. There's not a lot of discussion beyond past what we have just discussed. I have a follow-up meeting with Grafton PD for union negotiations next week. And I just wanted to make the board aware that I did submit our letter for consideration to the state for our safe harbor status. So we are currently with counting 116 Upton Street and 59 Pleasant Street at 9.1%. However, because of the growth we have seen in the past calendar year, that does make us eligible. Probably what we believe will be a 2-year safe harbor status as we march closer to that 10%. So that does not include 17 and 27 Upton Street, does not include Snow Road or
Millennial. Is that in there?
Millennium, correct. So nothing really happened with ARPA since we last met. Still just plugging away. And that is all I have, I think, for an update.
Okay, on to correspondence. Browse getting crazy here. Anyone have anything they want to discuss in correspondence?
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jefferson.
2 quick things. We had one from Mr. Davis confirming washout on Brendan Drive. I know we've had to couple visits down there for other reasons.
Yep, I went by there myself, and the builder, this is a single family home, did come through and clean up. It did look like kind of a typical washout that you would see in new construction and torrential downpour, and they were on it pretty quickly. So
it was a holiday weekend too.
Yep, I think it's resolved.
Okay. Did you want to discuss the India?
Sure, yeah. The one thing that was on here that we might want to make a motion towards tonight, because we won't have another meeting prior to the event, I think, is the proclamation or discussing India's 78th Independence Day. So that is going to be, or they're requesting it to be on Sunday, August 11th. This is a thing that, or celebration that we've had the last number of years, and asking to raise the flag in commemoration of this. And then additionally, we might want to, have a proclamation and someone there that would give that and maybe give some words. So there is something in our packet relative to this. While it's not on the agenda, I would just ask that the board consider making a motion to create a proclamation in addition to allowing the flag raising on that day.
So moved.
Thank you. Thanks. Any discussion on that? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great. Okay, so Evan, will you guys let these folks know?
Yeah,
that
we will reach back
we're all
out, let
set?
them know that they're good to go, and then we will also work with them on any accommodations that they need. I think in years past, we've provided power. And maybe open the building for restrooms, I can't remember, but whatever it is, we'll
Great.
work with them to resolve.
Okay,
Yes.
and then a proclamation, to commemorate this. Sorry, I'm not verbalizing this quite well, but if you didn't look at our packet, so this year, India will proudly mark its 78th Independence Day on the 15th of August. And so we will commemorate that on the 11th of August, spit it out. And then the other thing that I wanted to, bring up was this, fourth grader, right?
Yeah.
North Street Elementary School, Arya Manikandan, I might not be saying that correctly, but given that I am the chair of the Grafton Sustainability Committee, I'm gonna reach out to this kid to join. So I just commend them in considering writing a correspondence to us relative to Institute Road. I know that my daughter has complained, this is her favorite road in Grafton for her entire life, and it's all, gone. So this fourth grader was just, letting us know about cutting down this amount of trees and how you might want to do this differently. So kudos to them for reaching out to us, and we do appreciate it, and it is duly noted. Okay, anything else in correspondence? And there's no resignations. Any public comments, either here in the room, and then William, you can let me know afterwards about on Zoom. Mr. Prisby.
Hi guys, Edward Prisby, 25 Danielle Drive. I just wanted to address you about affordable housing, not as the Affordable Housing Trust chair or member, but just individually. And as somebody who's been an activist and an advocate for housing for the past 15 years of my life. Sadly, this is the same conversation that I've had over and over and over again with each and every housing project that I've ever been advocating for or associated with. It doesn't matter where it is. It doesn't matter how dense it is. The conversation always starts to center around people's fears about development and really fears about change. And Craig, you're right. It doesn't really matter what the project is. It could be anything. But the multiplied effect and impact of conversations like this across every single select board and every single planning board in Massachusetts since really the 1960s has created what we are now experiencing as a crisis. So it's not really that the trust is paying $1.8 million for 18 units, which by the way was some of that Pulte money that I fought for 10 years ago. What it really is the trust making an investment in 120 units of inventory on SHI, which is important to me. I know it's important to you. Okay. And the way you guys look at this is it's that the optimal solution is less density and fewer units. But the way someone like me looks at it is I would have wasted 100 units. I would have wasted the ability to impact the lives of hundreds of people who really need it by simply saying, no, we're going to turn this opportunity down because it's going to make some neighbors upset and people are going to be concerned about traffic. 2 years ago, there was an affordable housing development in Worcester, and it was about 200 units. So about 48 of those were affordable housing units, and affordable housing units have to go through a lottery to be sold, right? Do you know how many people applied for 48 affordable units in Worcester? 1,600. That means 1,552 of your neighbors have been housing insecure for the last 2 years of their lives because we're simply too afraid to have a real discussion about what's really important here. Did you know that 28% of Worcester County residents are food insecure? Women and children. That means they're going to bed hungry every night. And you know why? Because the rent's too high. Because we're not having this discussion enough. Here are some facts. In the 1970s, Massachusetts permitted 300,000 new homes while gaining 96,000 residents. Since 2010, Massachusetts has added about 246,000 residents and 353,000 new jobs while permitting only 81,000 housing units. According to the Massachusetts Housing Partnership, we rank 13th to last in the nation in housing starts. According to CSNBC, it costs a family of 4 or more to live in Massachusetts more than New York and Hawaii. A Massachusetts family of 4 must earn $150,000 to make ends meet every year. Think about that. What do you pay your cops? What do you pay your teachers? Right now, a cop and teacher married in Grafton with 2 kids can't make ends meet. Okay? The average housing cost in Grafton has increased 46% since 2018. 46%. When I got on the Affordable Housing Trust in 2012, we did a housing production plan that said the median single family home price in Grafton was $303,000. You know what it is right now? $565,000. And it's not because everybody has twice as much money. All right?
We can
Now,
wrap it up, Mr. Prisby.
What's that?
We can wrap it up, sorry.
Well, okay, but I waited a long time for this,
I
so
know,
I'm
but-
almost done. Craig, you mentioned earlier that it appears that the state doesn't care that the burden of these developments falls on the community. Sure, there is burden, but when these conversations happen, it sometimes appears that our local government doesn't care about the plight of the people who are suffering the most in this crisis. According to Redfin, the percentage of people who said housing affordability was somewhat important or very important in how they'll vote this year in this year's election, Gen Z, 91%. Millennials, 87%. These are your kids. And just to get local for a second, according to the Massachusetts Housing Partnership, which puts out data on this stuff, despite claims that recent development in Grafton has changed Grafton, 30% of Grafton's present housing stock was built between 1980 and 1999, with only 5% being built since 2010. Again, according to the MHP, since 2000, Grafton has permitted 0 developments of 3-family units and far fewer single-family units in the 2010s than the decade before. And during that time, of course, housing costs have skyrocketed. And as far as renters go, 3/4 of Grafton renter households earn less than $75,000. And again, according to the Mass Housing Partnership, that means after taxes, they have about $4,200 in income per month. Meanwhile, these same renters are paying between $1,000 and $3,000 per month to cover rent. And we're complaining about how the buildings look. And we're complaining about there might be traffic. Okay? These are the people who also need your attention. These are the people who do not come to meetings because they don't know how the process works. And they need your help too.
So, Ed, just a couple of thoughts. And you know I'm new to this, and I have tried to figure this out and understand it from multiple sides. So you make some interesting points, but I don't know that it's an issue of not having the conversation enough. I wonder if it's how we have the conversation. You're kind of saying that a little bit, and it does feel like, I don't want to keep labeling myself as a newcomer, but new to the discussion and hearing a lot of voices in the town, the sound is it just doesn't feel like there's this sort of collaborative effort. It's more of like, we're just going to do this. And people that live here have a right, or we should offer them the opportunity just to have some conversation.
Sure.
And maybe some input. And you make a good, but like, I don't know if it's fear or if it's just frustration. It could be any number of things. But I don't know that it's because we don't talk about it enough. It's talked about quite a bit by a lot of people, not in this room.
Well, if that's...
And again, Ed, let me just finish, because I know you've waited a long time, and I didn't want to interrupt you. So
Sure.
It might be the way we're having the conversation and what we say. Because I heard what you said, but it's like, I mean, is that really what the residents are thinking? All of your statistics? I get that. I understand it. I have a 24-year-old daughter who's not living here. She had to move out of town. I get that. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying maybe it's how we have the conversation.
Well, if you could think of another way to have the conversation that would help move the process along and make housing cheaper, I'm all for it. My problem is we have these conversations over and over and over again, meeting after meeting. And, you guys who are in construction know this. The more meetings you have, the more plans change, the more that housing costs increase, and that's all part of this. And the reason why,
So I know that, and you know that, but you know the average resident on Main Street or South Street or North Street, they're thinking, oh, cool, we're getting all these shops, but now we're not. How does that happen?
this is why I'm standing here. And it happens because I'll tell you right now, the shops are less important than the houses. They just are. I mean, not for you, you've got money to go shop in, but the people that we're trying to help here, they don't. They need a place to live. They don't need a donut shop. They don't need a bagel shop. They don't need another yoga studio. They need housing, desperately, to the point where they're going to bed hungry. Now, I don't know how any other way to have that conversation, but I'll keep having it. I'll keep coming back here and keep doing it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Yeah, we'll do it very briefly, please, if you could, like 60 seconds.
Thank you. Angela H.U., 30 Nelson Street. I appreciate the conversation tonight. I appreciate this opportunity at the select board. I myself am a Grafton resident, obviously reading the newspapers and looking at the project. As an attorney, I look at this and say it's an asset that belongs to the town, and it was required to go through a public bidding process, and it did. And in that public bidding process, the zoning was listed as village mixed use. And so there's a lot of transparency that's required. What I'm hearing tonight from the board is a request for an update. There have been significant changes. The reports that we've seen in the Telegram and Gazette and elsewhere have matched up to what was in the RFP. When you only have one proposer, there's no other competition. And to say that the proposer has a right to change its proposal, you need to actually state that in the RFP, and then you need to see it and you need to set requirements for it. There's evaluation criteria. There's concerned citizens who participated in the process. No one should be shamed for wanting to create opportunities that this town supported for small local business owners. It's how they can pay their rent. It's how they can pay their mortgages. So I appreciate the conversation that's happening here tonight, and I hope that we can continue this level of dialogue, because the part that feels like the bait and switch is saying, here's what we're asking the townspeople to participate in, put together criteria, solicit proposals. But if everybody that was soliciting proposals knew that you could change your proposal, you could get it ranked and evaluated, and you needed to actually have experience with mixed use, but then you could come in and just say it's all housing, that's two different levels of construction experience. The financing for it is very different. Asking what's going on in Affordable Housing Trust, I'm so glad that we're doing this in Grafton. It's what's being encouraged at the state level for all communities to be doing, because the Housing Trust operates independent of the town. But what we talked about earlier tonight is that harmony of bringing this information together. So I very much appreciate the diligence of the board. I take no offense to the questions that were asked and the discussion that's had here. In fact, I think that you're really trying to help the townspeople, if you're reading what's in the newspapers, trying to figure out, how did we get here? Because here is very different than where we began. And no one should be ashamed about where we began. No one should be ashamed about supporting small local business opportunity, nor about housing and affordable housing. I think you need both. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going to move along to meeting minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes, June 4th, June 11th, and June 18th.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to approve the meeting minutes for June 4, June 11, and June 18th of 2024 as written.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And I'll consider a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I did what they did the other day. There was no discussion. Remember on that one? Whatever Bob said.